Good morning, folks. Can the folks in the back hear all right? Okay. So welcome to Ellsworth. Thank you for attending. My name is Colin Walsh. I'm president of MaineASBO. Next to me is Sherry Moody. She is vice president. We want to welcome you to our trek across the state this year. Joanne has found some nice venues, some nice tech centers for us to participate in, so want to thank them. I want to introduce the board first so that you know who we are. So we've introduced ourselves. Secretary in the back left is Dawn Pooler, if you can raise your hand. Treasurer is not here, is Sherry Proctor. Other board members, Mark Bouchard is over here. Sybil Brewer. Did you guys all pick this side? Kelly? What happened to this side? Why this side? And folks who are not here, Cheryl Fournier and Zach Harding are also board members, so I want to thank them. I want to thank you folks. I want to thank you for what you do as business managers and business officials throughout the state. Hopefully you find today very helpful and beneficial. Joanne's put together a great agenda, and I think you'll hopefully leave with a lot of good information today. So as we start the meeting, I'll just start over this side and go down this table and back. If you could just introduce yourself, tell us what school district you're affiliated with, and let everyone know who you are.
I'm Carolyn Heller. I work with Ellsworth, and Amy Atherton sits here. She works with Ellsworth as well.
Thank you.
David Pascal, MSAD 15, Granite Gloucester.
Peter Nielsen, AOS 93, Kevin Peninsula 7 Town.
Kathleen Pierce, AOS 98, Booth Bay, Booth Harbor, Edgewood, Georgetown, and Southport. Joy Maynard, Walton County Tech Center.
Amy Fitzgerald, RC 38, Manchester, Mount Vernon, Greenfield, and Wheaton.
Anon Fuller, MSAD 6, Standish, Hollis, Buxton, Livingston, and Bryant.
Ivy Davenport, MSAD 6. Tina Plummer, MSAD 6.
Bridget Hopkins, North Haven Community School.
Go ahead.
Okay. Shelley Cummings, Oxford Hills Technical School in South Paris.
Tony Goodwin, MSAD 49, Laura Parker, MSAD 49. Barbara Durham, MSAD 6. Sarah Polito, SAD 37, Harrington, Madison, Columbia, Thunder Falls, Woodbridge.
Ashley Nixon, Bedford, and Dayton.
Muriel Police also. Katrina Kemp, SAD 70.
All of those are benchmarked to RSU3, 11 towns.
Yeah.
Can you name all of those in alphabetical order?
Evan Howard, MSAD 75, Hobson, Harpswell, Bowdoin, Bowdoin.
Andrea Temple, MSAD 75.
Katie Woolley, RSU 25, Bucksport, Woodland, Roman, Prospect.
Gretchen Gardner from Brewer.
Kelly Woodward, RSU 5, Freeport, Durham House.
Megan Cisco, AOS 43, MSAD 31, MSAD 41. Jamie Youngblood, Herman.
Mark Bouchard, RSU 39, Caribou in Stockholm.
I am John Simcoe from Androscoggin Bank, statewide.
And I'm Angie Snow, also with Androscoggin Bank.
Up in the back.
Jennifer Fuller, Bloomfield, Avon,
Kristen Flag, RSU 73, Jay Falls.
Laura White, RSU 73.
Amy Gann, Maine Indian Education.
I'm Jeff Yeager with Energy Management Consultants. They're giving me 15 minutes here soon, so I'll talk more about it.
I say where you're from.
I'm from Midcoast School of Technology, and we represent 19 towns down in the Rockland area.
And I'm with RSU 57, which is Alfred, Limerick, Lyman, Newfield, Shapley, and Waterboro. So thank you all. I want to do a few thank yous this morning. One is to EMC for sponsoring today. I want to thank you very much for what you do for MaineASBO. I want to thank our vendors, especially Androscoggin Bank, in attendance today, but all of our vendors. They are important to what we do as an organization. They're important to us in fulfilling our roles and our jobs. And without them, we couldn't be who we are today. So I want to thank all of our vendors for all that they do. I want to thank you folks. You are the organization. We are not. We are just part of the board. We are just representatives of you and trying to do what you want done. So to that end, every meeting I say, please reach out. In every meeting I say, this is your organization. It's not ours. It's all of ours. It's yours as a collective. So what you want to see out of this organization lies with all of us. We're just a conduit to help make it happen. So to that end, please let us know. Please reach out to Joanne. What is it that you want to see in the coming year or in the next several years for this organization and where we're going? I want to take a heartfelt thank you to Joanne. We would not be where we are today in her 2 years with us now without her. So if you could, please just, let's thank Joanne. And lastly, for thank yous, I want to thank Hancock County Technical Center for hosting us today. It has been a delight to be going around the state and seeing the technical centers. When Joanne brought the concept to the board and said, hey, instead of going to businesses, why don't we utilize our own internal resources and explore those areas of the state and what they do in the education world for tech. So thank you for that. I want to take a few minutes today to talk about goals of the organization. We have a lot. We are here to support you. That's our role. And I just want to list out a few things that we see as our vision for what ASBO is. Because it's important that you understand what we are directing as a vision. And if your ideas are different, we welcome those. If they're the same, let us know. But what we've gone from the membership over the past couple of years, I think has been pretty clear. It's been networking with others in forums like this. Joanne's going to talk a little bit later about regional groups and networking through those. Networking with our vendors. Really beefing up our listserv online and using that as a resource. And the all-important newsletter that Joanne puts out every month. Communication really was something when we were hiring an executive director that the membership said, we need more, better, and consistent communication. To that end, I think we are achieving that goal. It's been a real task to do that, but I think what we're doing is really providing information and resource to all of you in your roles. Regional meetings, I said she will talk about. Professional development, that committee will talk in a second, but I just want to give you some important information about that. I think what we've done with in-person meetings as well as lunch and learns is another means of developing professional development. We heard folks say, we want in-person meetings still. And then we heard people say, I can't travel to all those in-person meetings, I want another alternative. I think we've devised a pretty good hybrid, and hopefully you feel the same. Please let us know. Please let us know how that is working. Please let us know what topics you would like to see and hear about as we go through this year. And get those to Joanne. Tri-State's going to talk in a second about that. I just want to say one thing personally for me about Tri-State. I sat at a table in Augusta about 12 years ago, and I went up to Adam Hansen and I said, hey, how can I help this organization? Anyone who had ever been to the Elks in Augusta knows that it was winter and it was freezing and the pipes were almost frozen. That was not a delightful venue. That's where we are today. That one interaction is where I am in this organization today, getting involved. I'm going to ask the same of you to get involved. Get involved in learning, get involved in being part of the organization, get involved in sharing information. Get involved by going to Tri-State. I can't afford 3 days in May, Colin, to go to New Hampshire for 3 days. I challenge you to take those 3 days, commit yourself to those 3 days, and then come to me afterwards and say that was a waste of my time. I'm sorry you ever convinced me to go to that. I challenge you to do that. You will network, you will learn more, you will meet people from other states, you will meet topics that you never thought existed. I know we're all busy, I get it. Kelly's going to talk about Tri-State in a minute, but that is my commitment to you. Please be a part of that. I think it is that important. Days like today are great. They are important to what we do. That is what we're doing today, just beefed up 1,000%. Legislative, Sherry will talk about legislative. What am I going to tell you about legislative? Same thing I've told you about everything else. Be involved, share, and communicate. We'll talk about that in a second. Mentoring program. I know we have a fair number of new business managers in the state. Some come maybe with more education experience, but a lot do not. Please know that ASBO is here for you. Build those connections, build those relationships, reach out. On the website, there is a list of folks who have experience and a willingness to be able to share and teach and learn. I know there's some in this room who are already mentoring others without going to that list. That's what we're about. We're about sharing, working together, collaborating. I think that's important. I think it's vital to our success in our chosen careers. Upcoming meetings, I just want to mention, and Joanne probably had it on her list, but February 28th, Senator in Augusta. That is going to be a major day. I'll let Joanne talk about that day in a second. If there's a day that you're going to save the date on February 28th. April 4th is going to be at the Westbrook Vocational Center. No? She's shaking her head. That moved?
There'll be a meeting,
But not sure it's there. Okay.
There'll be a meeting.
Other things I want to call to your attention are lunch and learns, DOE office hours, and grant and federal office hours. If you are not part of any of those and you've heard any of that information and you said, I don't even know what that is, come and see me. Those are important areas that, again, are part of our growth and development. I want to thank some partnerships, and I'm going to talk for a few minutes just about things that are going on behind the scenes that you may not be aware of, that our organization is doing. Drummond Woodsum, how many attended the Drummond Woodsum Law Conference in Augusta a couple weeks ago? Awesome. If you don't, that's an annual event in Augusta. That agenda is driven by us. That agenda goes through us and then to Drummond to develop the agenda for the day. If you attended that and said, I wish they had talked about this, then what are you going to do? You're going to put that in an email to Joanne and say, at the next year's law conference, I'd really like this topic to be presented. It's your meeting. It's not Drummond's. It's not the board's. It's us facilitating what you want on that agenda. Maine Department of Education, I travel quite a bit, and I will tell you that regionally as well as nationally, we have one of the best relationships with our Department of Education of any state that I've come across. It is a partnership. They have their jobs to do, we have our jobs to do, but we need to collaborate and work together, and I think we've done that well over the past 5 or 10 years in particular. Know that that is a partnership. There is a lot going on behind the scenes to develop that relationship with all of the departments at DOE. They're here today. They're taking their time to come and really share information with us about what they need. And we're going to do the same. We're going to share our needs and what we need and how can we collaborate together, because everyone wants the same end result. We want to do what we need to do, meet the requirements, be in compliance, and do it as efficiently as we can. And DOE wants the same. MSMA, we have an ongoing relationship with MSMA on multiple different fronts. One of those fronts is Maine Loves Public Schools, which Joanne and I serve on. I want to talk for a second about those relationships, not just with MSMA, but with the Commissioner's Office for DOE. Almost every committee that has been formed in the past 5 years, there's always been an outreach to MaineASBO saying, we understand the fiscal side is very important and we need someone from MaineASBO to participate. As those come up, Joanne and I discuss, okay, who's willing to help, who from our membership is willing to participate, and what role best serves that need. These come up fairly frequently, and this has not always been the case for MaineASBO. MaineASBO, for many years, and you can talk to people who've been in this profession for 20, 25, 30 years, was not included in a lot of those meetings and conversations. And we are in almost every single one of them now. So reach out to Joanne and say, hey, if something comes up, here's where I'm willing to help. So that she has a list to go to say, hey, I've got 5 people who may be willing to serve in this type of a capacity if these situations come up. Some major work that's going on behind the scenes. MEPRI, as you all know, is doing their APS formula review and report to the legislature. We do have representation on that panel as well. I already mentioned the commissioner and Ed Org's committee that Joanne and I are part of on that. And then just reporting deadlines. I think Joanne did a great job this year in really getting in the newsletter and getting communication out about all of the deadlines, even to the extent of transportation and others that some of us do oversee and others may not. That was really important and helpful and valuable. If there are other things like that that you want to see in the newsletter, just reach out. Let us know, let her know, and we certainly want to communicate whatever we can. Is there anything on what I've said before I go to other parts of the business part of the meeting? Any comments or questions? Okay. Next on the agenda is review and approval of the meeting minutes from September 27th. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you. And a second? I'll take Mark. There were like 4 hands on it. Any discussion about the minutes? All in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? That passed unanimously with 1 abstention done. Review and approval of the treasurer's report. Can I have a motion to approve the treasurer's report? Thank you. Second? Thank you, Sybil. Is there any discussion about the treasurer's report? I'm just going to mention one thing here. The board's going to start having some conversations about planning for next year as well as the upcoming years. We feel at this point that what Joanne is doing is absolutely critical, and that role is absolutely critical to our organization. We are going to be talking more about that. I'm mentioning this as part of the treasurer's report because we have not talked about dues yet for next year, but we will be, because I know a lot of you are going to come to us in February or March and say, what are the dues for fiscal 26? This is our last meeting before February. I just want to mention we will be having those discussions, but hopefully you feel that the value you've gotten is really important, and this is kind of integrated into a large part of what we get for money is from our own dues. So, any other information about treasurer's report? Questions? All in favor? Opposed? And abstaining? That passed unanimously, Don. I'm going to turn it over to Sherry to do committee reports.
morning, everybody. Can you hear me? I think I'll adjust that. Okay, so the first committee we've got legislative, and that's gonna be me. Okay, we haven't yet met as a committee, as the legislature has not yet convened. However, we will be meeting, I'm sure, come January when the legislature gets into session. And I just want to encourage everybody to keep track of what's going on, and Joanne is our best resource for that. She does a great job monitoring the legislature and looking at bills and sending us information. I know that last session, there was some legislation that came through that impacted us significantly, all of us, and I would really put a plug in to pay attention to what's going on in this next legislative session, if at all possible. Our committee will be monitoring it along with Joanne and getting you information as quickly as we can about bills that may have a big impact on all of us. So stay tuned for that. Anything else legislative?
I think legislatively, the only other thing to keep in mind, and we've heard it from representatives a lot, your input matters. They get a lot of people coming before them at the legislative hearings, but testimony from people in the field matters. Whether it's written, in person, or remote testimony when allowed is really important. We keep saying, how did EPL happen, how did PFML happen, and whatever other letters we put together to formulate a law. Just keep in mind that that's all important, and when those come up, Joanne can only do what she can do, which is communicate, inform, and stay on top of it. It's up to us to then communicate with our legislators about things that will impact us, either positively or negatively. So stay tuned, it's going to be a busy session on that.
As you know, we are a 501c3, so we can't advocate for legislation, but what I can do from my past bag of tricks is if you write some testimony on behalf of yourself or your school unit, if you'd like me to look at it, I can do that. The organization can't take a position, but I could help you with some suggestions, some buzzwords, some things that matter. I will tell you facts matter when you do testimony. So just something to think about, just a service I offer.
So from a tax standpoint, our tax status does not allow us to lobby. So if you're asking yourselves and saying there, well, why doesn't ASBO do that? Why doesn't ASBO go lobby? Why doesn't ASBO testify? We're prohibited under IRS tax exempt code from doing that. So this is the way in which we get our input to legislators. Any questions on that? That's it on legislative.
Okay, next up, professional development, and that's Joanne?
Well,
No?
sort of. Yeah,
Sort of?
I'll do some stuff. I'll do some stuff. So we have a lot coming up with professional development. As hopefully you saw, I sent out a blast on the listserv, I think yesterday, that we have a Lunch and Learn coming up on November 18th with Superintendent Tim Doak from York. Some of us heard his presentation at the Maine School Management Conference. It's an approach to budgeting, and it's very communication centric, and it involves not just himself and his business manager, it involves his principals, the community. If you have questions about how that rolls out, his business manager can't join us, but his former business manager is Mark Bouchard, and Mark could probably talk to you a little bit about how that will look for us. Tim's very enthusiastic. He's high energy, so I'm hoping it will be a great presentation. So that will kick us off in another week from Monday. In December, John Simcoe will be delivering some investment information for us. So that will be exciting. That's December 10th. I'm hoping to get the newsletter out next week, so don't feel you have to write all this stuff down. It will be coming out in the newsletter. Let's see, what else? Regional groups are off and running. We've got 4 that are pretty well organized. We've got the Penquist group, which is led by Barb Grindle out of RSU 34. Barb's been doing this for many years, but now she's communicating with all of us and giving us her knowledge. She's got 4 meetings scheduled already. They meet 4 times a year at UTC in Bangor. And so she's off and running. I'm gonna let Jen Pooler talk from the Western Maine group. She's got some stuff going on. Carolyn Heller, one of our hostesses today, is organizing the Hancock group. And who's our 4th one? Well, you'd think I'd know, wouldn't you? But I have plenty of openings for regional team leaders in the southern part of the state. We could also combine some regions where there's small groups of membership. Looking for someone in Aroostook specifically. You could combine with Washington County, for example. Southern Maine definitely needs somebody, so let me know if you're interested in coordinating that. I can send you the little template that tells you sort of what you need to do or what we'd like you to do. Jen, you want to talk about what you've done so far?
Morning. So what I did to the Western Maine group, Joanne gave me the membership list for Western Maine. I sent out a survey, asking what your role is, if you would prefer to meet in person or virtually, when, meet, time of the day. And I listed some topics that I always want to know more about. And I received 13 responses that did represent 11 essays in our, and I have yet to schedule any meetings, but that is coming up. I had a little impromptu trip last week and so I think the majority of our group did want to meet in person. So that is, I'm gonna have to find a space that can accommodate us, and I know that so I'll probably be reaching out and just try to find out who has a space that can accommodate with the meet in person, or maybe just in person and virtually, just get a feel for But yeah, I do also want to thank Sherry Moody. She has put together a support group for Aquafun, and it's been very helpful. Although I'm wondering if we might be able to have some time out of our Aquafun rec with us, so we can cry a little bit. Without, and feel okay to do that. This is fun.
I think it's a good idea.
Thank you. If you did not respond to my survey and you want to, just email me, jcooler@mcpage, and send you the link.
Thank you, Jennifer. The only other thing I want to mention is that 2 of our DOE teams run finance office hours, so our federal team, and I'm sure they'll talk about that. Also, Paula Gravel's team, the school finance team, theirs is coming up on the 19th of November. I think they're at 10 a.m. Yes. And one thing I'm hoping that she'll address is there seems to be a little bit of confusion around how the adjustment on the 279 might work for the hourly employees. Remember, it's supposed to be, for those of you that are under the minimum, supposed to be a stateside adjustment for your next budget year, and I know you all need to know about that. So we're going to try to get that worked out. So I think that's all I have to say. Like I said, I've got a lot of details in the newsletter for next week.
Thank you.
Jen, thanks for mentioning the AptaFund support group. I was going to bring that up really quickly. We do have a bunch of new AptaFund users. It's a kind of a new software to Maine. It's probably only been here about 4 or 5 years. And I think I have 27 users in our group, and we're meeting every 2 to 3 weeks. So I just wanted to mention that if anybody is interested, they can email me or any of our group, and you can get added to the email list, and you'll get the link, the Zoom link, because we meet by Zoom because we're pretty statewide.
What is your email?
What's that?
What is your email?
smoody@mcst8.org. And I'm down in Region 8 in Rockland. Okay, next committee is Tri-State, and that would be Kelly. And I just wanted to mention that I am going to be going to Tri-State for the first time this year, so anybody that's new, get in touch. I'd love to experience it with you.
I could probably project from my seat, but I figured I should probably come up. So Colin took a lot of my thunder. I was very disappointed, just saying, because I had all these notes and then Colin mentioned them all. So what I will talk about is that it is May 21st through the 23rd. It is truly, I'll repeat, Colin, it's a truly wonderful professional development opportunity and networking opportunity as well. The Mountain View Grand in New Hampshire is where it's at. It's kind of a self-contained location. And so you spend the entire time with your peers. I'm not sure if we really talked about what Tri-State was. Tri-State is actually school business officials from Maine, New Hampshire, and Vermont. This group has been meeting, this is what, 32nd year, I think it is. This will be the 32nd year. And we alternate. Last year we were in Maine. This year we're in New Hampshire again on May 21st to the 23rd. And then we will go to Vermont as well, down in Burlington, for next year. So make the time. Please make the time. When I first started out, I was, I think, six years in before I actually went to my very first Tri-State, and I've been to every Tri-State since. So it's definitely worth the time for those of you who are in smaller districts or are going for the first time. MaineASBO does offer a scholarship program, which we'll have Joanne send some details out in the newsletter soon. Typically we open registration around February. We're hoping to do that again this year. But Kelly signed up to be, we're trying to move into the new age and get an app for the conference. And so I've got a lot of work between now and then doing budget and learning a new app so that we can actually have a little more interactive type app on your phone that you can have versus all of the paper that we typically, us business managers seem to like. So we're trying to transition for that this year. That'll be new. So there is a vendor fair there as well. A lot of the vendors that you see here or at any of our MaineASBO meetings typically come there as well. There's a big fair. And there's a lot of interaction and networking with the vendors in addition to your peers. Right now, we do have 2 vacancies on the Tri-State Committee. There's a group of us from, we're representative from all of the states. We do meet via Zoom mostly. There are a few on-site meetings that we will do, but typically there's always a Zoom link if you're not able to make it. There are 3 committees that are subcommittees within Tri-State that you would potentially end up on. One's a program committee, and that's really setting the agenda and doing those types of things. There's a site committee, which kind of handles all things site, signing rooms, that kind of thing. And then there's a vendor committee as well, which is sponsorships and then setting up the whole vendor fair. So we're definitely looking for some help with that with some Maine reps. We've had some one retirement and one resignation. So if you're interested, please reach out to Joanne or Colin to let them know. And I think that's everything I have unless anybody has any questions.
Yeah.
Where do you find the link to register?
So actually what we'll do is once Tri-State actually opens the link, we will communicate it out to Joanne so that she can get it out to the group. Typically we aim for like the first couple weeks in February so we can get it on people's calendars. But the save the date now is May 21 to 23.
The other thing I'll say about that Tri-State, it is in the middle of the mountains. So when Kelly says it's self-contained, it is self-contained. To that point, it is a large venue, but register, and once hotel rooms open up, get your hotel room early. Because if you wait too long, there is a strong potential that you will not have a hotel room. And you'll say, well, I'll just go to the Best Western down the street. No, you will not. There is no Best Western. There's no tents. There's no cottages. It's either that hotel venue or nothing. So that's why we're really encouraging you to save the date, get it on your calendar, and book early.
And with that said, as a committee, we block out a certain number of rooms and the majority of the site is ours. But once we reach a certain date and time, they end up opening the rooms up to the public. So that's why Colin says, when you register for the conference, please register for your hotel room at the same time.
Thank you, Kelly. Any other topics that you want presented this morning before we go to the next part of the agenda? This is your opportunity. Did everyone know the coffee is in the back right? I'm not sure you guys got the coffee before you came in. I will say to the regional groups, I know there's no formal Southern Maine group, but I know that there's a fair number of us here this morning who are part of Southern Maine, part of a service center. We're also meeting kind of separate from ASBO, but we're still doing that type of meeting too. APTA Fund group. There's different things going on that may not be official ASBO stuff, and that's all good too. We like to organize it as much as possible so we know and can message, but those types of things is what we're about. So reach out, be involved, be part of it. If there's nothing else for the business part of the meeting, I'm going to go into the vendor spotlight. The vendor this morning is Energy Management Consultants. Representative Jeff Yeager is here. He's going to talk about what EMC is, what they do, and what they provide to school districts across our state as well as others, and provide opportunity for us to learn and get information about how energy management consulting can help us. So Jeff?
Expecting a little applause, but all right. Tried myself. We're just going to watch the first 15 minutes of Mrs. Doubtfire.
Now we'll get you applause.
Come on, you can do it.
Want us to text?
Yeah, we can. I'm gonna get going and we'll see what happens. I do have some things I'd love to show you if it works out properly. I probably shouldn't have unplugged my computer when it did work, so that's on me. Nah, I can't get it to work in a moment, but it's all right. How many people here are familiar with Energy Management Consultants? Have heard the name, see what we do? Okay, that's good. 3. That's why I'm here. It's great to see you guys this morning. I will say, just to piggyback on things, if you do attend Tri-State ASBO, come find us. It's worthwhile. We network all the time. We think it's a great event, and we've been supporting it and attending it for years. So, Energy Management Consultants, we've been in business for about 30 years, and we're a consulting and engineering firm. We help schools with anything to do with building envelope that they may need, that we can also kind of fit into that save energy category. Does anybody here have a capital improvement plan? Raise your hand. Okay. Does anybody here feel like they need one? Okay, we can help with that. Those of you who have one, is it a great big binder of stuff that's just sitting in the corner of your office not really doing anything? Yeah, all right, we got one. Okay, so that sort of makes sense. So what we are trying to do with Energy Management Consultants is take that information. We can help provide that information, and I'll show you how we do that as soon as we get Mrs. Doubtfire off the screen. And I'll show you how we do that and how we go through the process. But that's what we do. We try and take that information, we build a report for you, we build a capital plan, and we turn that into projects. But we're really, really focused on projects that make sense for you. We're not just gonna try and say, hey, we really think you need to do this. We're gonna provide you the information and the options to get to an end result that makes sense for you, both to make your schools better for your staff and the students, and to make it make financial sense for your constituents. Which ultimately, I feel like in talking to some of you is one of those big hurdles that you have. Everybody knows that things need to get done, but trying to make sure it makes sense for the people in your community and make sure that those payments make sense, or however you're funding it makes sense, that's where we can also step in and help. Oh, hey, it's up, look at that. I will say that there is a small prize. I've got a couple questions at the end if you're paying attention, if you feel like paying attention. So, what's that? So, we've got a list of some of the schools that we've worked with. You'll notice that includes Ellsworth. We did a big project right here in the school system this summer. The lights that are overhead, I was really hoping it'd be a darker day, but we'll all take the sun today. But these lights were put in here a couple of weeks ago. Make it brighter, you can dim them, you can set different things, so we could bring, if we wanted to, we could bring just the front down so it's easier to see this while kids can work in the back. Any of that lighting automation stuff we do, and we've been doing that for a really long time. We're made up of engineers, certified energy consultants, but where we kind of differentiate ourselves is we're made up of HVAC technicians and automation technicians, which is a big piece of the projects that you can save energy on. Why that's different from maybe who you're working with or some of the other people out there is our job is to be a consultant, not to get you into something that we have to service. We're brand agnostic. We want to make it make sense so you have multiple people that can come in and service your equipment. The people who have been in, who turned wrenches, who sat with their computer and done your automation system, they know what that is. They know where the gotchas are. And we make sure that the work is followed up on and done properly. I'm gonna get out of this and show you just a quick thing. When we decide to partner with you, we'll come in and do a full audit of your system. And when the audit's done, we'll bring you something like this. This is actually for Ellsworth schools. This is the first phase of the project that we did this summer. You can see we did a roof, we did a boiler conversion. That includes removing the tanks, heat pumps, some lighting, some window replacement. But you'll also see we're providing, what are your operational savings? What's the life cycle of this project through 25 years? Not just it's an upfront cost and that's what we'll leave you with and that's what you've got to go to your board meetings with. We're going to provide operational savings, energy savings. You know, if you're converting from oil to propane, we just presented in Camden the other day, and it's 10,000 gallons a year of oil that they're going to save, or the equivalent of. Associated rebates that come with that, we are, what's the word I'm looking for? We are associated with Efficiency Maine. We do a lot of work with them. The biggest one we've done, actually, we're working on the biggest project, the most money Efficiency Maine's ever given out. We're doing a project in Kittery to put heat pumps in their school, and Efficiency, it's a $1.6 million project, and Efficiency Maine is covering half of that, $800,000. So us working with Efficiency Maine, and it's not, here's a one-page application, go. It's, we worked with Efficiency Maine for 2 weeks to provide all of the engineering, all of the manufacturer costs, all of the markups are provided to them, and they decide where it lands. That's stuff that if we can help take it off your plate and again, make the project make sense for you, that's part of our value to you. If we have time at the end, I'm gonna kind of circle back to this, So once we put that together, we've got that phase 1 project, we're gonna develop options for you. We know that we've got to update the boiler room. So we're going to provide 3 options. This is actually directly from the Camden report we presented to their school board 2 nights ago. We put together, we kicked the tires on about 11 different options to make it make sense. And some of those options were, what's the lowest upfront cost? What's the lowest cost through the life cycle of it? What is the most energy savings? What's the most green option for you? Because sometimes that's important to you. Or your constituents. So we provide the options, we find the 3 or 4 that make sense, and we present those. In this case, these are the 4 options that we presented. You can read through them if you want. It all gets to the same ending, where we're saving money for the customer and making their system more efficient and bringing it up to date for the next 25 years. Their high school is almost exactly 25 years old there. That's pretty much the life cycle of mechanical equipment. You might get more out of it. I know I worked with a school in northern Maine. I think their boilers have been going 62 years. And I'm sure that's what you have to do sometimes. You have to figure out a way to make what you have work. We can certainly help you with that too, but the idea is to give you the information to make the best option or the best decision that you can. This is a bit of an eye chart, but I feel like I've got some numbers people in the room, so I'm gonna try and run through it. What we did here is we took those 4 options across the top. You can see that option 1, the first year 0, your upfront cost, your low cost is option 1, it's $1.1 million. Option 3 is 1.6, and it goes from there. So if I just presented you with a project, or you were going in front of your customer, or your customers, your constituents with this information, what's the discussion going to be? This is the audience participation part. All right, I'm gonna guess it's gonna be, hands down, we're going option 1. It's easy. It's easy, more or less. It's $500,000, $500,000 less. It's easy. What we're gonna say is, all right, that's the low cost option, but when you get to year 15 of the life cycle, option 1 is only good for about 15 years, the product that we're putting. It's got heat pumps involved. Those run for about 15 years. You're gonna have to replace them at year 16. That's gonna make that jump up a couple $1 million in year 16, right? So what we can do is say, through the 25 years, here is what the total is. And we're including all of the options, and I'll show you that in a minute. The clear option over 25 years is option 3, right? So we're giving you that information to help make the best decision possible. Obviously, math. We'll also trend this for you. The blue line is option 3. It's pretty steady. It's gonna go up. That's your maintenance costs. That includes all your savings. But overall, you never have that jump where you've gotta put a big chunk of money in at year 15. Again, just providing you data to make the best choice. And then we provide you with a scorecard. It's green is most favorable, red's least favorable. If you go, all right, initial costs and operating costs, that, option 1's your best option. But once you get beyond that, option 3, that's your second best, and then you get 1s through maintenance costs, life cycle costs, the complexity. That's really on us. When we develop the project, we're also gonna PM the project for you, and making sure that we've got the right number of workers on site, we can get to the equipment. All those things are really important to make sure that the project goes smoothly, because, correct me if I'm wrong, but if you're doing a big project like this, you've got about 9 weeks to do it in the summer, because you can't have those people in your building all during that time. So we put that all together, and it really is kind of a clear option again. It's your best option to move forward. In this case with Camden, we made a recommendation to go with our option 3, where we put a new condensing boiler and a chiller in. It provides cooling to the space. They had water source heat pumps, geothermal pumps that had a lot of grit in them. It was only working about 25% of the time. So we provided them with these 4 options, told them the positives and negatives, and they got to decide. But we provided the option. We provided the direction, because we've got those people, those engineers, those people on the ground that can make the project make sense and bring you the data that you need. One of the other things that we really feel like differentiates us is we're completely transparent with the process of bidding. These are actually the 3 bids that we got for a previous project in Searsport that we did over the summer as well, a similar one where we put new condensing boilers in instead of oil. We will do this sealed bid in front of your board if you want. We'll come with envelopes that are sealed and we'll open them in front of you. We'll show you exactly what the 3 bids are that we have. And we're also gonna go what we call lowest qualified bid, where we're gonna bring people in that we know do the work well. They're qualified to do the work. There's probably somebody in a local town that could do it for half the price. They've got 2 people, they think they can pull it off. Unless you tell us you want us to work with them, because they're in your towns, we will, which is fine, we definitely can, and we have on some projects. We're gonna bring in people that we know can do the work, can bring in people that will do the work and get it done in the time frame that we have that's necessary. Once we have those 3 open bids, we literally show you our entire cost structure. If you look at the top, those are your 3 bids in yellow. We show you any other work that needs to be done by additional contractors that the mechanical didn't cover in this case. We'll show you what it costs us to develop the project. We'll show you our engineering services, what it costs for us to have a project manager on site 2 times a month or 2 times a week throughout the project. Our training's in there, our risk, our warranty, even our markup is shown to you. All of this stuff is really important information, so when people ask those questions to you, you have that right in front of you. And if you have questions for us about how we got there, we're more than willing to answer them. But you know exactly what you're paying for when you do a project with us. And that's what we want. We want to be transparent. We're small enough and agile enough where we can make this happen. We can show you what it is and we can make it work. We can handle anything from we're doing a fire cistern, we're doing roofs, we're doing doors, we're doing anything you can throw at us. We'll manage the project and make sure that it's done right. And the other big piece that we provide on the back end is we're not releasing any of that money to the subcontractors until the project's done. How many of you here have somebody within your school district that is an HVAC automation expert, that knows soup to nuts exactly? I got one out of 50 people, all right? We have them in our office. The key there is that we're not gonna let them go from the project. We're not gonna pay them the full amount that we're owed. And by the way, we manage all that money. Goes into escrow depending on how you wanna pay for it. We manage that money to make sure until we've done a QA on that part of the project, specifically the automation, we don't let them off the project, because once they leave, you ever had a situation where it's really hard to get them back. Yeah. So that's the value that we're trying to bring to the table. We're trying to be transparent. We're trying to provide you information and not push you into anything that doesn't make sense. We're trying to give you the information that you need to make it make sense for your constituency. We'll help you with finding the right financing tool if you can do a bond, if you like that process, if you like the performance contracting process, if you just want to do a regular tax exempt lease purchase, we can work with any of those. We have people in the office that have been doing this for 20 years, and they're really good at that process. So we're happy to just help wherever we can. How am I doing for time? I feel like I'm they gave me 15 minutes and I got about 42 slides, so just bear with me. No, I'm just kidding. That's my last slide. If you don't mind, I'll just, I'm gonna bring one thing up to show you a little bit more about how we put projects together. We recently did audits of all of the buildings in Freeport schools. When we were done with them, we had 120 measures. And that's anything from a new door, a new roof, new windows. We looked at solar options. We looked at wind options. We looked at anything that could potentially save you money on energy, and we put them in here. We then will go through, we help you prioritize them. Priority 1, 2, 3, 4. We can provide a phase. So we put together a project that's, if we can do it, the energy that you save from the project pays for the loan that you take, the tax exempt lease purchase loan, over about 17 years. So if you could do a project that's worth $2.5 million and your budget expenditure didn't go up at all over that 15 years, it's a really good story to tell the people in your community. You get better stuff, and you don't have to pay for it. It sounds too good to be true, but we are trying to get as close to that as we can. So in this case, we put together a phase 1 that included these. You can see again the operational savings you get, the energy savings you get, any rebates that we're going to get from Efficiency Maine, and the project cost. And then we can show you exactly what it's going to cost. We can change the interest rate. Let's say we wanted to go, what are interest rates now? 4.9, 4.7 is what we're seeing on these a lot of times. We can update that. We can say you use the rebates as a down payment. And then we can hit calculate. Your annual contribution is $36,261. We can show you the energy savings, operational, all the way through the length of the loan. So again, it's just about providing information. It's helping you get to something that makes sense. If it doesn't, what's the worst that happens? You end up with that capital improvement plan for a 10-year period that sits in a corner. We don't want that. We'll help you get there, and at least can, when something happens in 7 years and somebody comes and say, why didn't we take care of this? You can go, I told you about this 7 years ago and we decided not to. You know, sometimes that's what you need. It's just the information to make it make sense. I believe that's all I have. Are there any questions? Yes?
Just a real quick one. So a lot of what you've been talking about is energy efficiency projects and things like that. Do you ever do any structural projects?
In what way?
So if I have to do a structural project for a roof, you did say roofing projects,
yeah.
But if I have to structurally restructure a roof, do you engineer any of those kind of things?
Yeah, we certainly can. The energy part of it is really how we justify the financing. If you do a tax exempt lease purchase and it goes to, we will take them to, I think we use Drummond and Woodson as well. They'll look at it and go, hey, does this measure really save energy anywhere? In a case like a new roof, you're gonna save energy almost immediately if you up the R value of the insulation. So yeah, we can make that work. We definitely would do that.
Great, you have a business card? We don't have a lot of engineers up in my way, so.
Yeah.
You have a business card.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I'll get one to you.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
My question was, you mentioned efficiency rate. Are you considered a qualified vendor with them?
We are. That was the term that was completely escaping my brain. So yes, we are. We are. So yeah, we do a lot of work with them. We work a lot with Rick. He's at all these trade shows, and we actually had him as part of the discussion when we went to Kittery to talk about it, because Kittery really, they kind of did it a little bit backwards, where they said they found out there was money to put heat pumps in a building, knew that Efficiency Maine money was there, and then found a partner that could work with Efficiency Maine to do it. So we were chosen through an RFQ process with Kittery and with Rick's help to make sure it made sense for them. The other thing about that RFQ process, which generally you do have to go through, we can talk about it offline, but once we are chosen as an energy services company or an ESCO, we can work with you for up to 5 years, as long as we're doing our job and you like us, without having to go back through that RFQ process. It does make it a little easier to not have to kind of go through that process again, put it in the paper, make sure it makes sense for everybody. So again, we're ready to come in, sit down. We don't have to go to a board meeting right off. If you just want us to come sit down and talk about what your needs are and how we might be able to help, please come get me. I'll give you a card. We can go from there. Other questions? All right, here's my giveaway thing. Raise your hand, I'll try and get the first one. Anybody remember what I said about how long we've been doing business? Well, I heard somebody just yell it out. That's. I said a hand. I think I saw that hand first.
30 years.
30 years, all right. Sorry, I should have grabbed this first.
Is it just your business card, Jeff, or is it?
Yeah, no, I'll give you a business card. Here, now you can stay hydrated. All right, if there aren't any more questions, I sincerely appreciate 15 minutes of your time. Please come talk to me. I'll be here the rest of the day. And again, come find us at Tri-State. I guarantee you'll have a good time. Those of you who hung out, I guarantee you'll have a good time. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you, Jeff.
Deserves an applause. That's what I was looking for.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thanks.
Appreciate it. As I said before, vendors are really important to us. If you go to Tri-State, you're going to see probably close to 100 vendors at Tri-State. They are important to business officials across the country, and specifically in Maine. I think your comment was a good one. Up where I am, I can't find that technical resource. That becomes a reality. That's a real reality of how do we meet needs in rural Maine. And I think that is part and parcel of what we do as an organization. So thank you for the question. I think that's an important one. The federal teams from DOE is here. Jeanette is going to start the discussion and lead the various teams. This is going to be pretty lengthy, so we are not stopping until lunch. Feel free to get up, use the restroom, grab some coffee or water, but they're going to go from one team to the other. This is an important part of us really understanding the needs of each of these specific teams and what our roles are and what they need and how we can collaborate. So Jeanette, feel free to come on up and we'll see if we can get you connected. In the meantime, also try to get your questions together and we'll have Q&A time at the end. Depending on how quickly this goes, we'll either do it before lunch or more likely after lunch.
Preferably at 3, so we miss out time.
Oh, yes, that would be That's funny. Shucky dar.
Part of the deal.
I can put that into this one up there, That's always an issue with the building. So but it's not.
Good morning. My name is Jeanette Kirk. I'm the Chief of Federal Programs at the Department of Education. So the Office of Federal Programs comprises of assessment, child nutrition, ESCA federal programs, and emergency federal relief at the moment. And obviously that's going away. We have a number of team members here this morning. I'm just going to have them introduce themselves as they come up to present their portion. They are your primary points of contact. They are the subject matter experts, so definitely use them as a resource. We do have a Q&A document that's running for our own purposes, so if you ask questions throughout, we are going to capture those. We will document the response and we'll send you that response so everybody has the response. If you weren't here, you are here, so everyone's on the same page. So we're going to go through just a couple of reminders regarding invoicing. We're going to dive into equipment. We're gonna dive into time and effort, which I know is everybody's favorite topic, and meaningful consultation, and then team-specific updates. For teams that aren't here this morning, we have updated slides, we will update the notes, but we're essentially just gonna post them, run through them, but we're not gonna present on them because those subject matter experts are not in the room, so we don't wanna create confusion. So we'll let you kind of glance at the slide, and then we'll move along if that's okay with everybody in that realm. And then, as I say, we've got Q&A at the end, but obviously if there's a question that comes up, please stop us at any time. We'd rather address your question than you leave with additional questions or confusion. So some general updates. We are gonna move from monthly office hours to quarterly office hours. We were holding them monthly. We did find that we got roughly around 10 to 15, maybe 20 on a great month. So they're not being utilized as we had thought. So we're gonna switch that to quarterly office hours at 10 o'clock. The dates are there. If you go to the department's professional development site, you can register in advance for those. It will give you a link, it will add it to your calendar, and it's the same link for every single session. So pop those on your calendar. If you've already registered for the monthly, you don't have to do anything. We've updated the cadence, the registration link will still work, and you should be all set. You'll just have to make a note of the dates. And then for invoicing, just a reminder, especially for ARP ESA funds, ESA, I say ESA for both of them, so I usually say ESA with an ER, not an A. So for ESA funds, deadline is 12:30. It's coming quick. It's gonna be here in no time. Get those invoices in, and Maisha's gonna go into more detail on that, and get the whip out, as it were, to get those invoices in. But invoice as soon as possible. We are asking that you get those invoices in by 12:13 at the latest, because we still need to review them, we still need to approve them, and DAX still needs to approve them. So we wanna make sure that you get your money in a timely fashion and that we have enough time to review them. Because what we don't wanna happen is an invoice come in on the 24th, the backup isn't there, someone's out the office, it can't get reviewed, and it's gonna miss that deadline. So we wanna make sure that you get your money in a timely way, okay? In addition, we have a plethora of grants closing out as well, right? So add in the 37, whatever many million, is it 37, is it 57, 37-ish million? 37 million that's left in ARP money. Add to that Title I, Title II, all the other different titles, IDEA, EASE, all the grant cycles that are coming to an end, we're gonna hit a bottleneck. So the quicker you can get them in, we wanna support you, we wanna help you as much as we can, but we need your help in getting those invoices in as quickly as possible, okay? Any questions on that? Liquidation reminders. So this is something that we just wanna make sure everyone's on the same page with. We did streamline this because we recognized that we have a lot of different federal programs teams. They're not necessarily in the same office, and we had multiple dates all over the place. So trying to make sure it's as streamlined as possible so you have basically one date where you know you have to get everything in. We have 90 days to liquidate the fund. Well, the SAU has 90 days to liquidate the funds, which is why you have until December to liquidate the funds. The state agency has an additional 30 to liquidate the funds. So that's why we set that date as December, because then we have that additional 30 days through January to kind of get all our ducks in a row, right? To make sure it's all closed out on the federal level. All of those changes are in 203.344 and 2 CFR, if you're wondering where the statute language is. At minimum, you should be doing quarterly invoicing. I know there are some that have applied for a waiver to extend that period of performance period of performance is the wrong terminology. Service date period. To extend that service date period beyond quarterly because you are behind in invoicing, especially with ARP. But generally, quarterly invoicing, if you can submit them no later than December 1, at the latest December 13th, that would be great, okay? But we've given you all of the grants, the obligation date, which primarily are all September 30th. And then you can see where the dates were a little skewed. Some were October, some were December. They're all December 30th. But ideally, get them in as soon as you can. So for obligated expiring funds, this is something that we see a lot of. You have to obligate your funds by 9/30. So if you don't have your funds in a contract right now, those funds are off the table. You can't now obligate them, that ship sailed, okay? So that was the obligation date. Now we're in the liquidation period, so we need you to invoice, and you're gonna hear me say that 20 times today. We need you to invoice to get them in. But the obligations, some of the things that we've seen recently, things are coming in and it's a local obligation. So it might be, I'm gonna use Maisha. Maisha does a PO to me as the office director. That doesn't serve as an obligation. The obligation has to be with the vendor. So until I reach out to, I don't know, Grants for Me for whatever I need, that obligation is not made. So we just wanna make sure folks are aware of that, because I know Tyra's seen quite a bit of that recently where she's had to kick something back to say no. This doesn't constitute an obligation. So it has to be with the vendor. So statute does permit the services to be performed during the liquidation period. However, payments must be received within that liquidation period. And we strongly recommend that the entire project is done by that 9/30 deadline where possible, right? Like, it gets muddy and gray if you're still doing a piece of PD in October. Ideally, you want it all done by September 30th. It's clean, it's invoiced, we can close out with no issue. We recognize there's quite a bit of gray in that statement. We're gonna be working to try and make that a lot clearer so there's no confusion. Okay, so stay tuned for more information coming on that. We did highlight to the left of the slide the obligations for the 3 areas that we do see a lot of challenges typically: for travel, so when travel is obligated, for personnel services, and then for performance of work other than personal services. So they're the 3 that really are the hot points for us when we're checking invoicing. So we've highlighted those so you're aware of those pieces. And then again, the statute is at the bottom, which is 2 CFR section 76.707 if you want more information on that. Maisha, equipment.
Just contrasting, right? So you can see me, right? I am Maisha. Good morning to you all. So I am the fiscal coordinator for emergency grant program. Grant program that's going to end soon. So in this section, we will go through some ideas on the equipment, because we always juggle between equipment and supplies when we are trying to put object codes from our side. So, and we especially like put it in this session because going forward, we will see some changes in the threshold. What we call equipment is that UGT has been implemented, that will has been introduced. It will be implemented from July 1, 2025. So as of now, as per 2 CFR 200.1, equipment is any tangible property that includes information technology system having a useful life more than a year, and the per unit cost is $5,000 or more. And this threshold of $5,000, we will see a change from next July 1, 2025, which will be $10,000. And on the right-hand side, we put a diagram to help us. I'm sure you all are very familiar with this, because we have been communicated this a lot of time to give us an idea, just to differentiate between supplies and equipment. So for the equipment, it will be last more than 1 year, and we would repair it rather than replace it, and independent unit rather than incorporated into another unit, so it's not a part of another big equipment. So equipment is itself, it's a it has an individual, yeah, it can be any any machine, any apparatus or anything like that. And yeah, and last, I mean, the most important thing is, I mean, the unit price, it will be 5,000 or more as of now. So when we have equipment, we need to be very cautious about keeping the inventory of that, equipment, keeping the records of that. And when we are thinking of keeping records of that inventory, these are some of the, these are the bullet points that are the information that we need to keep. So that includes unique self-determined inventory number, description of the property or the equipment, serial numbers or any other identification number, source of funding, which includes FAIN. So each federal grant has FAIN numbers. Who holds the title of the property, the acquisition date, cost per unit, percentage of federal participation in the project cost for the federal award, location of the property, use of property, condition of the property, note any safeguard measures of that property, and ultimately the disposition data. So in the next slide, this is an inventory checklist or inventory form. We call it by many different names, but it should look like that, and it should have all this information: description of the equipment, manufacturer model number, serial number, funding source, date purchased, unit cost, vendor, percentage of federal fund used, location, condition, and date the location and condition was verified. So that is the when we are doing the inventory, and the disposition or replacement date. So equipment inventory tagging, each equipment item must be permanently tagged as soon as we receive those. And following information needs to be there: inventory number, source of funding, building name and room location, and acquisition date. So with the small items, like laptops, like iPads, we need to have at least inventory number and source of funding attached to that items. So here are some additional information about inventory. So physical inventory is needed and has to be completed, and the result reconciled with the property. Here the property represents the equipment records at least every 2 years. So that's the main important part. At least every 2 years we have to do that inventory. A control system must be developed to ensure adequate safeguard to prevent loss, damage, theft of the property. An adequate maintenance procedure must be developed to keep the property in good condition. Okay, so for the purposes of equipment inventory, the non-federal entity, which are the SAUs, may choose to manage and track equipment purchased in whole or in part using federal funds separately from equipment purchase using local or state funds. So it depends on the non-federal entity how they would like to utilize their fund. So that was about the equipment. Now the disposition of equipment.
So you're probably wondering why we're giving you all this information on equipment and disposition, right? So much equipment has been purchased using ARP ESSA funds. When we were monitored by the federal government recently, last May 23rd, they asked for our inventory records, right? How we're reconciling. So we want to make sure that when your audits come around, when our teams go out on site to verify that you're doing your inventory pieces, that you're fully prepared, and that this then doesn't feel like a gotcha when we go in and say, okay, so where's your inventory? And you're like, what? Like, what inventory? Like, I don't know what you're talking about. Like, we want to make sure you have all the information up front, So then, if you've made any recent purchases, like you can start making sure that that equipment is inventoried, and then if you've made prior purchases and it's getting to the disposition point, that you know exactly what the expectations are when it comes to disposition of those that equipment when it gets to the end of the grant cycle. Does that make sense? So disposition, the process of transferring, donating, or selling supplies or equipment or real property that are no longer needed for the federally funded project. We know with a lot of projects, they were funded with ARP ESSA monies, those are going away. Often we find those projects may disappear, right? Because sustainability wasn't part of the project. So we want to make sure that you have a clear understanding of what's required, depending on when that project may end. So I've given you the definitions there as far as supplies, equipment, and real property. So supplies are any tangible property that does not fall under the definition of equipment. So in that flow chart that Maisha shared, if the first no in that flow chart, if the first answer is no in that flow chart, it's a supply, right? So it doesn't fall under equipment. Equipment is, again, what Maisha said. We've included the $10,000 threshold in this slide. Currently it's $5,000. So any grants that you're currently engaged in, $5,000 is that threshold. Once we get to July 1 next year, that threshold will be $10,000, okay? And then obviously real property, machinery, equipment, all of those pieces. So regarding disposition, the following describes how supplies, equipment, and real property in whole or in part with federal funds can be used. So for supplies, if the residual inventory of the unused supplies is less than $5,000 in total aggregate value, you can use the supplies if they're needed, whether or not the project continues to be supported by the federal award. So you can continue to use them. You can use them for activities under another U.S. Department of Education federal award or activities under a federal award from other awarding agencies. So an example would be if they were purchased under ESDA, the award is finished, but child nutrition could use them. You could use those iPads in your child nutrition program, even though they were purchased with ESDA funds, okay? Equipment, the same pieces, right? So for equipment, if they're needed, whether or not the project continues to be supported by the federal award, if the activity is under the U.S. Department of Education federal award, or for activities under a federal award from another federal awarding agency. So same premise for supplies and equipment. It's different for real property, and real property can be used for the authorized purpose of the project as long as it is needed or obtain written approval by the federal awarding agency for the use in other projects. So you have to get authority to do that. That would come to us. We would then get that authority on your behalf. And I've given the statutory references below related to those if you want to dive into that, because I know it's really thrilling reading and you're all eager to dive into EDGAR. So how do you know where those funds are? So we've given you, and I'm not going to read this slide verbatim, you can read that, and we are going to provide the slides to Joanne after the session, so you'll have all of this with our notes. So you are going to have to calculate the fair market value and determine whether the selling price or advertised price is similar to an item in the competitive market. And then from there, you're going to then determine if you need to get permission from the federal government to dispose of those items. And again, you'll email the DOE contact. So if it was child nutrition, you would email Jody. If it was ESDA, you would email Tyra. And then we will make sure we get those permissions on your behalf. The nice piece is if the federal government decides not to reply to our email, you're good to go. You get a green light, right? So but we want to make sure we've got all our ducks in a row and we have requested that permission from the federal government if it's needed, okay? Again, just going through and trying to give you as much information as possible. If the item is less than $5,000, it can be retained, sold, or otherwise disposed of with no further obligation. And then we have given you some definitions of what that means to be retained, what it means to be sold, or then disposed. And then in order to determine if compensation is required to the federal government, that's where it gets a little tricky. I've given you the language at the bottom, so you have that at your fingertips as well. So if you get into that gray area where the federal government may need some money back, it walks you through the calculation of obtaining that dollar amount. And then if it's greater than $5,000, if it's greater than $5,000, it may be retained or sold. And then again, giving you some additional information regarding transferring that equipment or retaining that equipment. If it's transferred, you're entitled to compensation for the attributable percentage of current fair market value. If you're retaining or transferring, you have to contact that DOE contact to make sure that they get that approval, okay? And then obviously if it's sold, we gotta compensate the feds for anything that we sell, all right? Tyra.
All right, time and effort. I am Tyra Corson. I am the management analyst for the ESCA team. I see some familiar faces, not all, but I want to find out who's in the room. So if you attended the Brewman Conference, can you please stand up?
Yeah. Good, next.
Stay standing. If you attended an ESCA office hour in the last 6 months, stand up. Nope, you stay standing. I know. And last but not least, if you are new to federal grants for education, please stand up. All but the new people have a seat.
Don't.
Welcome aboard, and take a look around. This room has a lot of resources for you. Okay? Thank you. See, you didn't have to stay seated for 3 hours. Okay, so time and effort. We had Brewman reiterate the fact that time and effort certifies just that. The time the staff member spends working on a cost objective. It does not certify how they were budgeted or how they were paid. Okay? So the effort obviously is the work they're doing. And the time obviously is how long did they spend doing that work. Oh, I forgot I have a mic. I'm probably killing you guys. Whoops. Time and effort reporting can be tricky sometimes. I like this table, and for the folks in the back, I apologize, I did not bring binoculars, but I just want to go through a few scenarios that I know that you all deal with and see if I can get some feedback. So I am a curriculum coordinator and an ESCA coordinator for a district. And I am funded by federal funds. I am funded by 2 titles. Which time and effort can I submit? Which one of these is I spend 100% of my time between being an ESCA coordinator and a curriculum coordinator. Semi-annual? How many cost objectives do I have? I have 2, right? I'm an ESCA coordinator and I am a curriculum coordinator. So if you look at your chart up here, 2 or more cost objectives, right? The only way I can submit a semi-annual form is if I have a consistent schedule. And that schedule needs to be weekly or bi-weekly. If I do choose that form, that is a 2-page document. I have received recently many that say, I certify that I spent 100% of my time as a Title II teacher, and I don't know, ESEA coordinator, it doesn't matter. Per the attached consistent schedule. There's no schedule attached. We need to make sure that we are submitting those. Okay. Anybody have any questions on this chart? This is a great chart if you're not unsure. If you're unsure. These are the types of time and effort certifications. Semi-annual, which means for what period of time? What is your maximum period of time? 6 months, right? Maximum period of time is 6 months. Personal activity report, a fixed schedule par, and a stipend. And we're going to dive into stipends a little bit. Okay, your time and effort certification, semi-annual, can be used for an employee that spends 100% of their time on one cost objective. Employee can be paid from a combination of federal and local funds. So if they are a Title I teacher, and I'm only using the titles because that's my expertise, right? I am a Title I teacher, and I spend 100% of my time as a Title I teacher, but I don't receive enough federal funds to pay for my whole salary. That is a situation where I am going to be supplemented with local funds. Okay? Semi-annual certifications can be signed by either the employee or supervisor with first-hand knowledge. That does not mean a superintendent in a central office that has 6 schools under them. It needs to be signed by a building principal or an immediate supervisor, right? They know what you're doing. This is an example of a semi-annual certification. You see at the top, the district or school is identified. The employee is identified, their position is identified, and where they are located is identified. That is important. This date needs to be after the certification period. And I know this is a challenge for many, many districts, especially rural districts, where the last day of school is June 15th, and I'm not sticking around. I'm the teacher, I've worked all year, I'm out. You might find me in Europe, right? So what I say to that is, shift your 6 months so that you can capture their signatures, okay? This is another semi-annual. But this is being certified by a supervisor, immediate supervisor, right? This is a group of people that work in that school on one cost objective. Personal activity report, yes ma'am.
Can you go back to that slide? You had multiple names.
Yeah.
You can have, because it's the same cost objective, you can list them all in one?
Yes.
Okay.
It has to be certified by a supervisor.
That's fine.
Right?
Yeah.
Personal activity report. This is for individuals that work multiple cost objectives. We talked about that right off the bat. They may be working multiple cost objectives, such as an ESEA coordinator and a curriculum coordinator, but they're only funded by ESEA funds, right? They're funded by one stream. They still need to fill out a PAR. They need to fill out a PAR. They need to tell me what they're doing with the time. The whole certification of effort and not how we are budgeted. Red flags that I've seen recently. I had a certification come in. It was a PAR with a consistent schedule, however the schedule was not attached, and it said Title I, 98% of the time, and ESL, 2%. That's a red flag because That is, I guarantee you that's how they were budgeted. And that's how they're being paid. This is a par. This same identity as far as the school, the employee, and then your pay period. If this is a par that has a consistent schedule attached, then you can do it for 6 months. Otherwise than that, a par is done daily. This is the front page of the par with a consistent schedule. This is what a consistent schedule would need to look like for that par that you just saw. The biggest thing on the schedule, we need time blocks, right? Because that is what we are certifying. We are certifying our time and the work that we are doing during that time. So a schedule comes in to me and it has absolutely no time blocks. It just says, Monday, this is what I'm going to do in the morning. It won't have any time blocks, but it will have the description of what they are doing. That is not acceptable. We cannot reconcile that back to the amount that the federal fund is paying for that person's time. Okay? Oh, stipends. This is the stipend, wow. I just noticed we have like a T missing, we have an ST missing.
It's on the front, it's on the edge of the.
It's at the top.
Oh, I see it.
We're good.
It's on the edge of the table, it's.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm not gonna fix that now. But this is going to be updated because I feel where we put the stipend amount on the side, that people are, so I have a few SAUs that provide stipends to their teachers or their stakeholders for curriculum development. That happens outside of their contractual day. And Title II can be used to supplement those, pay for those stipends. But what I'm seeing is a semi-annual. So there's no dates of when the activity happened, no time frames of when the activity happened. And we need that. Again, can't reconcile it back to the amount that they're being paid, right? I have seen recently on invoices for the quarter, 7/1 to 9/30, the trial balance or general ledger that is attached only has the summaries. So it says stipends, $9,000 over here. The backup doesn't equate, first of all, to 6 months. And second of all, it doesn't equate to what they are doing for $9,000. So then I ask, do you have a stipend agreement? Because most SAUs that provide stipends in that manner have an agreement with that teacher or stakeholder. In those agreements, it's in your best interest as an SAU to detail what is required of that person to get that stipend. Because if I sign an agreement to attend leadership meetings, right, and I'm going to get, $5,000 stipend for the year, and I should be attending those monthly meetings, but something happens and I can't, right? Or I get done, I go elsewhere. If you've already paid that stipend before those meetings even happen, That's not best practice. Any questions on stipend, time and effort?
So you're saying that if, as long as you have a stipend agreement that's a fairly detailed agreement of what's expected of the person doing the stipend, then they don't need to list the dates and times and what they actually do?
No, they do need to list dates and times.
So,
Because the stipend agreement
mhm.
throws it all in, right? And it's usually for a year. It's not for 6 months.
Right, so I'm specifically asking that question, and I apologize, because we pay stipends using Perkins funds from teacher mentors.
Mhm.
And it's not a scheduled, the teachers aren't mentoring on a schedule. It could be very much like a pop-in, or, hey, I need help with Infinite Campus. I mean, are they supposed to be documenting every time they've met with their mentee?
They need to maintain documentation, just like an SAU needs to maintain documentation. Say that this was really for an LDA international conference, right? There should be either registrations or sign in, sign out forms for leadership team meetings. There's always more documentation underneath just what you provide us. If we come out, at least the ESEA team, if we come out on site to monitor your district, that's the next level we want to see. Okay? We're not gonna ask you to present us with documents you've already given us. We want to see that next level. Questions? Yes, ma'am.
So I have Title I teachers are split between Title I payment and some local. So do I have to do time and effort, or are they all do the same thing every day, and they do the same job all day?
So they are working one cost objective, you said Title I, right? And they're being funded with 2 different funding streams. If we go back to the chart, it will tell you, you can do a semi-annual certification for those teachers. Okay? I'm gonna go back to the chart because I just like it.
So to follow up on that, would their time be 100% on that cost objective, or would it be?
Is that all they're doing?
That's all they do all day.
That's right.
But
And-
regardless of source.
Right, exactly. Also, I want to make a note. Some of you have school-wide authority, right? On our website, which is, if you click on that link, it will take you there. And then you just use your back arrow and you'll come to a whole bunch of time and effort resources. But school-wide is like the simplest, because they can be anything in the school, okay? And those are always semi-annual certifications for school-wide. You want me to put you back? Yes, ma'am.
So we're school-wide, so what about our ed techs that fill in the after-school program, but are doing other things during the day?
So the after-school program is outside of their contractual day, right?
Correct.
And they are being paid extra for that, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so this is a little nugget that I learned at Brewman.
We just had this discussion the other day, so yeah. So
Brewman says you can do 2 time and efforts, right? One for the after-school portion and one for their contractual day.
okay.
And that's exactly what I would do in that situation. Any other questions?
I just have one quick one, because this is maybe a weird one. I have a local entitlement who most of her day is, and that's what she's funded as, but then she gets a stipend on top of that for 504. That she maybe spends like 3 hours a week as a 504 director or coordinator, which is local funds, but it's a stipend position. So we say she's 100% local entitlement because that's her main position, but she has like this weird stipend position.
And that stipend work is happening during her contractual day?
I mean, like 3 hours a week.
Yeah, so she could, this is
So
I'll let
for-
Colleen answer.
Yeah, so for local entitlement purposes,
I know what I would do.
100% of her time during her regular day is under local entitlement, so her time and effort would be, that would be noted that you're paying her 504 stipend out of local funds. For me, I don't need to know that. It might be something that you want to keep track of, but it's not something that we're required because 504 is really completely separate from local entitlement.
Right, so I can just do a semi-annual.
Semi-annual for the local entitlement, and that's it, just for our obligation.
Because you don't care about like the minimal. Okay, I guess that was my question.
Yeah, no, I understand the confusion because we're asking you to account for 100% of their time.
Right. Okay.
Any more?
We'll make that one.
Yes.
It's all
Good morning, my name is Colleen O'Neill and I'm the Assistant Fiscal Coordinator for the Office of Special Services and Inclusive Education. And I deal with all things IDEA. One of the parts of IDEA, the first slide that I'm working on is actually Shelley's slide, and she's not here, but she asked me to just kind of look at it quickly with you. In her program, there is also a meaningful consultation that needs to take place. And I won't read this slide verbatim because you'll have it. But there are some bullet points here about that non-public school consultation that's important. And if you have questions about that, please reach out to Shelley. As far as IDEA, non-school public consultation for parentally placed students, this is something that pops up both on the local entitlement application and the local entitlement year-end report. There are two separate areas where you need to document and record your meaningful consultation with private schools. So when a student is enrolled in a private school by their parent or guardian, because they've made an independent choice to do so, the student is considered to be parentally placed. And I've gone and listed the citation for that. One of the things that we learned this year during our audit, and the feds just audited our team about a month ago, was that this is something that they're really looking for, that documentation. They're looking for it from us, and we're gonna be looking for it from you. So when you are consulting with a private school in your catchment area, you want to make sure that you are engaging in meaningful consultation and that you're documenting that process. So you want to make sure that you have three different types of documentation, and you want to record it. Whether you've reached out, you've had a meeting, you've emailed, phone calls, you need to make sure that you're keeping all of that documentation. And in the application process, there is a place to upload those meaningful consultation correspondence, or there's a place to put a comment about who you spoke to and the dates. As far as the funding goes for parentally placed students, once you have identified those students who are parentally placed in your school district, in your catchment area, you will need to calculate, or our grant system will calculate a proportionate share of your IDEA funds for those students. So that is a mandatory set-aside amount of money that you can use for child find and consultation. And I don't want to get too far into the programmatic items that you can do with those funds, but it's a mandatory set-aside, and it's set aside for the first 24 months of your 27-month grant. So you can you can create a project for those funds, and you should really try to engage that school district and use those funds for those students. If you don't use those funds within the first 24 months, you can reallocate what's remaining, or all of it if you didn't spend it, As we know, some private schools do not want to consult or they don't want their money. But it's very important that you know that you retain control of that money. We never pay the private school those funds. We retain the control of that money, or you do, and you pay, you reimburse them like you would with any expense. So you can reallocate those funds if they're not used in any already approved project. So, and you need to get prior permission. So you would contact my office. You would say, I have X amount of money remaining. I'd like to be able to use that money for psych services or something. And you would make an adjustment to your grant and you can move those funds. And there's a lot of information here in these slides, and it's very situational, so you may want to just reach out if you have parentally placed students and you need to set aside funds. Remember that the the private school needs to be a state-approved private school. You should see them in your drop-down list when you're filling out your application. On the year-end report side, there are 3 components that you have to report. You need to report to us how many students were placed, how many you served, and if you consulted with the district at all. So we want that information in the year-end report, and that's documented in these slides. So.
Do you need to see any proof that the non-public is unable to use the equitable services in the 24 months and is willing to give those funds back to the public SAU? Do you need to see anything, or?
Well, we want to see all of the documentation. You have to try at least 3 times to consult to make meaningful consultation. You need to document how you were in touch with that school district or with that private school. And any correspondence about them not wanting those funds or you being unable to spend those funds because maybe you didn't agree on the plan in place. So it's all about that first sort of initial meaningful consultation and making sure that everyone's on the same page to create a program or create a project for that student, to work with that student. And teams don't always agree, but they do need to agree before those funds can be obligated. Any questions? Again, you always should reach out to us. We're happy to help in any situation that comes up, because everything is a little different from place to place.
Good morning, my name is Emily Dowdy. I am representing the Workforce Development and Innovative Pathways team. Our friends from Adult Education weren't able to make it today, but they did share some notes. Just a few quick highlights. We do have some funding sources that are now being processed using Grants for Me. So that is a shift, and we are moving the MCCA grants to Grants for Me starting in July. Most of the MJRP contracts have been extended, and more information could be directed to Megan Dichter if you have questions. So just keeping that short and sweet, but a few shifts that may impact you. I am on the Career Technical Education team, so I know a bit more about this piece. Your lead contact is Melissa Sherwood. She is available for office hours, and we encourage you to connect with her if you do have questions about funding. A few of the active grant periods we have right now, we do have 4 grants that are open for you. MJRP was recently released, so this was in the past few weeks that you would have received information about the $2.7 million equipment funding, and we are requesting that you submit any applications by the 15th of this month. So if you work with CTEs, definitely be collaborating with them at this time. Like the other federal teams, we are requesting quarterly invoices. This is a bit of a shift for our team, so if you do have questions about that, reach out to Melissa or myself. And our deadline to submit invoices for our team is 11/30/24, and those would be for fiscal year 24. We are looking to schedule some new director trainings. We have quite a few new directors in their 1st to 3rd years, So we did offer something this summer and are continuing to request feedback for support for our new directors as well as business managers. And again, we have our office hours every Tuesday, 3 to 3:30. Nothing formal, so just hop on. We'll answer any questions you might have, and it's quick drop in, and happy to help wherever we can. Any questions from the CTE side? All right, with that, I'm going to turn it right over to Jody with school nutrition.
That looks yummy. All right, hi, I'm Jody Truman, and I'm probably gonna knock something over. I'm with the Child Nutrition Department, the financial specialist for Child Nutrition. And I'm just gonna be talking to, there we go. Just going over a few reminders of the financial administration part of Child Nutrition. And I keep hammering this, is the MEFS revenue codes. I think every time I speak about the MEFS revenue codes. We have, due to meals, no charge meals for Maine, you're getting a huge chunk of Maine funds now for reimbursement with your federal funds. So that the MEFS codes separate your federal and your state money coming in. On something new that's happening, you should have gotten it by now with on your advice slip. I have added the MEFS codes to that description to help you with that as well. So that's.
Can you clarify what you mean by the advice slip?
So, well, if it's direct deposit, you should get some sort of a, email, sorry, yep. Or if you do get a check, then on that check, the description would have it there as well. I've also been working with IDA with DOE finance team, confirming those MEFS numbers to make sure they are correct. Anything new, I will let you know if we've had to add a new code or if we have a new if we have a new funding stream, we'll let you know what that code is as well. We also are looking at updating the handbook for you to make sure everything aligns. We're also kind of looking at the 1,000, 6,000 codes, the revenue with the 2930, and more stuff is going to be coming later about that. I'm just dropping the bomb, but I'm not telling you anything more than that.
That's great.
So, but IDA just wanted me to let you know that something's coming, so just be aware of that.
Hey, Jody,
Yes.
I just wanted to ask, I always put my state funds into just one code. Do you want us to separate it out now into the
There's
3
like
or
3 of
4
them.
breakfast, lunch, blah, blah, blah? Okay.
Sorry. And
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, unless IDA, and all that's going to IDA, so it's important that, and that's why maybe something will come in the future with with our child nutrition revenue code later on. But it's important that those funds are being properly reported.
Well, I
because
didn't
they're all different funding sources.
I didn't realize that you were even breaking it out until I got the latest okay. So
Yeah.
that's why you did it.
That's why I did it.
Okay.
Yeah, and the MEFS revenue codes is on our child nutrition website under finance as well. I also want to thank you all. I'm sure all of you had a hand in the annual financial report. That was just due. Everybody's completed theirs. It's all done. Woohoo! Big big, nobody wants to clap, but I thank you very much for that. And I also want to thank you for working with your child nutrition staff and getting that done, because it is a collaboration between the two of you, and it's important that that does happen. And from me, I'm always pushing that your child nutrition person should be doing that report with your help. There needs to be that division of duties. They need to get, they can do part of it, the revenue piece at least, from the CNP web reimbursement page. They know what's coming into them, so they can do part of it. We have that tool, the monthly financial worksheet, to help them do that, but they should be reaching out to you, getting the list of the detail of the revenue and expenses to finish that. If they are doing it monthly, it's going to help a lot when it comes to the yearly. It's not going to be as long. And I will say, just to keep in mind, I know there are many small schools that may only have the cook. And so just be cognizant of that when you're hiring for that, because there are a lot of administrative duties with child nutrition that need to be taken care of. So if it is gonna be on, the business manager do some of that, that's a little gray area, and we'll just do your best. But just remember when you're hiring somebody that there's a lot more to it than just cooking the food and giving it to the kids. So just keep that in mind. Okay, the next, I went backwards. The next item, some of you may or may not have a hand in this, but it's our, it's one of our provisions for the child nutrition program, and it's called community eligibility provision. And that is the eligibility collected for the students is primarily from, it is not primarily, it is totally from the direct certification list. And that percentage is changing to 25%. So that's a huge change, and that really means a lot of you that may not have been able to qualify will be able to qualify now. The other item is the Maine Care Free is now on that DC list, so you can use that as a qualifier. You cannot use the reduced, Maine Care Reduced. That is not a qualifier for child nutrition. So I just wanted to make sure you're aware of that. So using that Maine Care Free, your DC numbers are gonna climb. It's big, actually. So to participate in the CEP provision, those numbers, I want to make sure I get this right, because the CEP, David Hartley is the one that is the contact person for that. But let me just, all right, well, I'm going to read you what I wrote so I don't miss anything, sorry. Okay. So the CEP is the best way to capitalize on USDA fund reimbursement. With CEP, your DC percent is then times by 1.6 to give you that higher free claiming percentage from USDA. That's why it's important, because you're capitalizing on the USDA funds and not so much on Maine funds to pay for those meals. So all schools are encouraged to run their numbers and see if they qualify. If you do qualify, we are asking you to change to CEP for program year 2026. The DC list and enrollment data for qualifying is as of April 1st, 2025, not before. So on April 1st, you need to run your direct certification and get your numbers. Throughout the year, you should be making sure you are capturing all your direct certification, because there's all these kind of nuances, like if one child in your house could be on the DC list, but another one can't for various reasons. But if they're in that primary household, all students are qualified for that qualification of DC. So you want to be working through those numbers and making sure you're capturing everybody that does qualify between now and April. So an email notification that you want to participate needs to come from the superintendent to David Hartley, and that is by June 30th, 2025. So any questions can be made to David, and again, the DC key is on the side, so you can see all of those are qualifiers for CEP except for the Z Maine Care Reduced. Is there any questions? All right, next. And I did not break anything.
All right, we just got a few updates for the ESEA federal programs. These are all the grants that are in liquidation that fall under ESEA. I can tell you with 100% certainty that the FY22 ESEA consolidated grant is down to less than 1% available. That's amazing. And that's kudos to all of you. The Tier 3 school improvement for FY23 has come to an end. please get your invoices in if you have a Tier 3 identified school that receives funds. That grant sits at about 32% still available. Okay? I also want to make note that during this liquidation period, if you are a district that is behind on invoicing, please call ahead and let's talk about how we can get these invoices in, get them approved and paid so that you can submit additional invoices, right? Currently, it is taking about 30 days. 30 days from the time that you submit to the time that you get your payment. And that is within the regulations. The state education agencies have 30 days once you have submitted an invoice to provide payment. Title I, reallocated summer. That is over. I do want to warn some folks that that grant is specifically for summer programming. And summer programming is 4 to 6 weeks for most places in the summer. So if I receive a reimbursement request for your September salaries and benefits, do you think you're going to get reimbursed for that? It's not reasonable. It's not reasonable to think that you are still working on last summer's program. Okay? This is what you might be asked to participate in, and I believe wholeheartedly that ESEA funds are not successful unless you are communicating with your ESEA coordinators or your building principals, whoever has their hands in on this ESEA application. The FY24 performance report was due last Friday, and those are for expenses through 9/30/24. Expenses against your FY24 grant. Because I'm well aware that we currently have 4 grants open. Okay? Fall monitoring, if you were lucky enough to get chosen for fall monitoring, the resubmission, because you all should have received feedback on your initial submissions. The resubmissions are due on the 15th. And winter monitoring is coming up. It's the same cohort. If you were identified for fall monitoring, you will participate in winter monitoring as well. So, performance report requirements. I have communicate. Anybody that's ever heard me speak on ESEA funding knows that I live and die by that, right? It is so important, so important. Grants for me, the performance report is embedded in the application, and I know grants for me, you guys are like, oh. But I'm so excited to share with you that I found out this past Monday or Tuesday, that as the LEA fiscal representative, and obviously in collaboration with your ESEA program coordinators, you can now make adjustments in the performance report. So you could go in there, the ESEA coordinator has to, application coordinator has to go in and set it to revision started. And then you can go in and actually report those expenses out that you have invoiced for. And if you're behind on invoicing, you need to catch up because we need to align those two, right? What is being reported as being spent along with what you have invoiced for. Any questions with that? The next couple of slides are just going to show you where you can find your performance report, where you would report out your expenditures, okay? And when you are submitting your performance report, the amount remaining column, that should align with your carryover. Whatever you want to carry over, that amount should appear there. Hey. Oh, any questions? Yes, sir.
Can we submit invoices while the performance report's being reviewed by the state?
So you can, but grants for me is kind of finicky. So your performance report has to be approved before you can get reimbursement for expenses after 9/30. So if you're invoicing for expenses for the service period of 10/1 and beyond, if your performance report is not approved for FY24, you will not. I can approve them, but not for payment. And I generally do that. Like if you could see into my queue, I have reviewed invoices for expenses for October, but the performance report has not been approved yet. This is where the communication is key. You have to be on the same page with your application coordinator. Okay?
Can I also ask about invoicing?
Yeah.
We've been told we have to invoice monthly.
Right. Yes.
I've seen other slides where it says you can invoice quarterly. I'm confused. Which federal grants can we do monthly, which can we do quarterly?
Yep.
And is there going to be any speed up to the reimbursement process? Because if we can't submit the next month until the prior month's been paid, you've said several times, get on top of your invoicing. Well, we're on top of it as quickly as we can, but we can't invoice until the previous invoice has been paid.
Correct. And so the monthly invoicing is only for federal grants that you receive $250,000 or more in funds. Okay? Let's just set that precedence. It's on your grant award notice under terms and conditions. And I hear you. I brought this up yesterday because of this reason right here, the performance reports, right? I think that we need, and I am going to bring this up and hopefully get a team consensus, that the last quarter, so July to September, should be on one invoice. Okay? July through September, one invoice. And I know some of you might be sitting here today, I don't know, but you have asked, can I have a waiver so that I can submit for 9 months and get caught up? Those are reviewed on a case-by-case basis. And the chances of getting that waiver year after year after year doesn't exist. Okay? So if you need help, for one reason or another, you need help getting those invoices in, please call me. Call me. I will answer the phone, trust me. Maybe not on the first ring, but usually by the third. Any other questions?
So that goes for our local entitlement as well, correct?
Correct.
Is there any way for those of us who have to do monthly that can be expedited in some way? Because we are literally billing the second we get a deposit and we're still behind. Not because we're behind in filing them, we're behind because we can't submit.
Right. I don't do IDEA, but I do know that DAFS is delayed. because there's been a huge transition down there, and I know you've heard this year after year after year. Apply. We could use some good people. But in all seriousness, I am one person on the ESEA team, and I am responsible for thousands of invoices. So I cannot, unless you were to email me and say, what is going on? Why haven't I seen my money, right? And a lot of questions that I get around that, because I got my hand slapped a couple weeks ago. Because oh, it's Title I. I sent it right off to the accountant down there, and he's like, I'm not behind. I don't have anything in my queue. And I'm like, what do you mean? It says right here, it hasn't been paid. But it was because the district did a transfer. And when you do a transfer into Title I, your payments for Title I are proportionate to that transfer. And there's a different accountant for Title I, Title II and IV, and Titles III and V. So unfortunately, grants for me, as Colin said, will not allow you to submit another invoice until it is paid out. Rest assured, we have taken this to the developer numerous times, and they said they will not make that change. Like in the old system, if some of you are around for GEMS, as soon as I approved it, you could submit another one, right? It's unfortunate. It's not going to happen with grants for me. I guess you take the good and the bad.
I appreciate it.
Yes, ma'am.
I have a couple of invoices that I submitted for Title. And when I received the notification from the state that it's been paid and it's going into the bank account, it had lessened the amount, and then like a few days later, I get another email that says it came in Title IV. Can you kind of explain that a little bit?
Yeah, so that's what I was just talking about. It's when the ESEA application coordinator transfers money. So when you are all approving, huh?
We haven't transferred it.
Well,
Are you sure?
Yeah.
probably when the grant was set up, I think your coordinator would have set it up to transfer from Title IV to Title I or something.
Right.
Since I've been on board with the district, they haven't done any transfers from Title IV to Title I.
On the
Can I-
original application.
Can I answer your question individually? I want to look at your application, okay? Are there any other any other questions? Perfect, thank you.
So just a couple updates for special services and IDEA. Year-end reports were due October 30th. And we are fully aware that there are a couple of sections that are not open or available to you guys. Specifically A and B, which is maintenance of effort and excess cost. That data is pulled directly from your fourth quarter uploads. And I think as of Wednesday when I checked, I had 181 districts who had completed their uploads and they were migrated. So what we like to do is get a majority before we start pulling them in so we can do a bulk upload, once or twice and not 4 or 5 times. So as soon as I get a few more, I will get that data in. We also are struggling with grants for me and in those 2 spreadsheets, pulling the previous year's data forward so we have something to compare to, and we have a section where you can work on exceptions. The report as a whole can still be completed without those sections and submitted, and I hope that you will continue to submit them and do them before you can work in those sections. Because if, once I pull that data in, you are meeting MOE, there's nothing left to do. It's gonna meet, we won't need to do anything. If we find that it's not, we'll reach out individually and set up times to work with you to find those allowable exceptions to put in. I know I've worked with a bunch of folks already on their reporting, and I'm happy to do that every single day. It's what I do, it's what I really like to do. So please reach out if you want to make an appointment. We can set time aside to work on that. The year-end reporting for your purposes in the FY24 is all about those expenditures that happened from July 1st of 23 through June 30th of 24. And if your billing is caught up through June 30th, the easiest place to get those totals to transfer them into your reporting is right in the invoicing section. So you have read-only rights to look at the invoicing section. If you go in and look at the FY24 grant and choose the service period ending June 30th, and you go to that expenditure overview page, your totals are right there, and you can literally screenshot them and put them into your report. And just please remember that if you're doing this, or if your directors are doing this, please supply them with a detailed trial balance as backup, because we do a triangulation reconciliation. We look at the expenditures, we look at what was billed, we look at your trial balance, and then we look at what was uploaded in NEFs, and that's how we reconcile. So just, that's a little bit on the year-end reports. To date, for FY23 liquidation, there's about $664,000 remaining in FY23 funds. So if you're not planning on uploading invoices or spending those funds, let us know so we can repurpose them to a school district not meeting fate. So if you would just drop me an email and let me know. I know, I share the same sentiment as Tyra. It's frustrating on the invoicing. I wish we could do it differently. I know that our management analyst is very quick in approving those invoices so we can get them to DAFs as quickly as possible so they can turn them around. If you're not seeing your payments, please reach out, because sometimes there are quirks in the system and they get rejected for numerous reasons, and if we don't follow up with them downstairs, we wouldn't know that you weren't getting paid. So just please follow up with us on that. And always, as always, please reach out. Ginger Shaw is fairly new to the department, to our team. She's my right-hand man and helps me with everything. So she can answer questions, I can answer questions. Rebecca Mitchell is the management analyst working on all of your invoices, and she's excellent, and she will get your invoice and sometimes approve them too quickly. She's already has them approved and you need them pulled back for a reason. So just please reach out. We're happy to work with every single one of you trying to get your money to you timely. Any questions? And I agree with Tyra. I like the idea of that last quarter being submitted from July to September to help you. We also have allowed some waivers on receivers of over $250,000 for you guys to get caught up. We don't like to span a quarter. It's a lot of backup, and if there's an issue, finding those little mistakes can be very tedious. So if you are, and if we do allow you to bill multiple months, please attach your breakdowns monthly, so at least we can reconcile them monthly. And we'll work with you as much as we can. Any questions? Cut off, please.
Made a mistake.
I do want to say too, like the teams that are involved here with the fiscal pieces, they are monitoring those queues, right? So we are checking to make sure once we have approved them, if we see that they're sitting with DAPs for an extended period of time or they seem a little off, we are checking those and monitoring them to make sure that they are being seen, and then reaching out, like, is there a batch issue? And then the other thing just to bear in mind too, once that payment goes to DAFs, DAFs then has to order the money, right? Like, so it's not already sitting in a pot of money that they've drawn down from the federal government. They're batching it, then they put the request into the US Treasury. That takes 2 to 3 days. Then that has to come back, and then they have to hit send to send the batch. So just trying to keep those pieces in mind as well with timelines. Like, we are all trying to support each other and making sure these payments go out as quickly as possible and you get your money back. But there are nuances that fall outside of our control as well. So if you see something, reach out to us so we can reach out to DAPS on your behalf, okay? School and student supports, we tend to call this team the OSSS team because they're all just S's in the title. Those folks aren't here with us today, but they did provide a couple of slides. I'm not going to go through them in detail. This one specifically relates to the EASE grant, so expanding access in school environments. Christian Fore, F-O-R-E, is your primary contact for this grant. So you want to make sure you'll reach out to him with any questions. Bethany Cunningham is the Stronger Connections grant, I believe. So you'll want to reach out to her. You can see there that there's 84.5% and 76.3% of funds remaining. Again, you're going to hear spend, 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 right? 6 weeks left. We're coming to that crunch time, which again goes back to invoicing, bottlenecks, all of those pieces. So just keeping those in mind. So there is a new EASE scholarship coming out. It's $173,000, which will be awarded to three universities, and it will support students in pursuing mental health degrees and careers in Maine schools. So just a heads up on that. Christian will be your contact. And then within that OSSS team is McKinney-Vento. So Signey Lynch, S-I-G-N-E L-Y-N-C-H, is your point of contact. She is your homeless coordinator. She's provided some information there regarding ARPHCY funds under the ESSA with an ER, not an A. Making sure, again, you're going to hear it again, people, invoice, right? December 13th, if you can invoice for those funds, that's your date, really a drop-dead date to use those funds. If you can invoice prior to, that's phenomenal. She's gone into a lot of detail. I believe the Helping Students Avoid Homelessness is the state-funded grant. So she's got 3 follow-up slides related to those state funds. And I think that was the one that's $750 per student on an annual basis. So as I say, you'll get all of these slides so you have them. But she's given some really detailed information about how you can adjust categories within your budget and things of that nature. So all of this is there. I am not the expert in student homelessness in this grant, so I'm going to leave that to Signey. And then again, you'll hear from all 3 teams at this point. It kind of goes with the non-public piece. Payments must be paid, to a vendor. Like, they shouldn't have access to the funds. It's always reimbursement based. So we're never transferring funds to say, here, go spend this chunk of change. Like, we're always in control of those funds, either at the SEA or the SAU level. Now it is Maisha's turn.
So this this picture explain it all, like the updates that I would like to give you on behalf of Emergency Relief Program team. So we do have a lot of money on our table, and we only have 6 weeks left to close out this grant. So since the beginning of this year especially, Maine DOE has been communicated frequently to all our SAUs so that we know we don't miss out that obligation date. That was 9/30/2024, and prior to going into this, I would like to recognize that it was a big amount of fund, right? So almost 370 million. So, and we have gone through, we have come through a long way, and as of end of October, we still have $51 million left. So, but this path was not easy. The path was, it was a crazy path, I know, and there was lots of ups and downs. There were lot of changes and lot of craziness that we have to went through, and yeah, I really appreciate that. For all of you, you made it to this point, right? And I will urge you to just just get to the end, right? Just yeah, we only have 51 million left, even though it's a lot of money, but it is 13 point, almost like 14% what we had initially. So, and I would like you to know that our team is here who is really working hard to get all the invoices done. You can, I can say like, yeah, last month in October, they processed about $33 million worth of invoices. So it's a lot, and they are trying their best to do the due diligence to make it happen. So I would request you all again to invoice by complete that invoicing by December 30th. December 13th, that will give us that some time to review it, get it approved, and send it to our Department of Administrative and Financial Services, which is staffs, and it has to be approved by them as well. So just some statistics where we are at. As I said, there is $51 million remaining still, and in the month of September there was 20%, and now it is 14%. And there are about 66 SAUs who have done with their invoicing, but there are 9 SAUs still there who has 50% and more in their remaining balance. There are 22%. There are 22 SAUs who has 25% remaining in their 25% and less than 50% remaining in their fund, and there are 30 SAUs who has 10% to 25% remaining in their reserve fund. So last note, this invoice, invoice and invoice. Thank you.
So you can see why the team keeps going on about invoicing, right? If we have 9 districts with over 50% of funding, with only 6 weeks left to go, catching up is nearly impossible, right? So that's why we're really, I know it's tedious and I know it's frustrating to hear us keep saying invoice, but this is the point that we're at. Questions? Do you want to hold this till after lunch? What do you want to do, Joanne?
Let's, Camille's team is ready to serve lunch, and when they put these open, it's gonna get loud.
Okay.
Let's hold your questions, and then we'll reconvene at 12:45.
Perfect.
Or you can bug them at lunch.
That is true too.
Folks, I hope you enjoyed lunch. If you get a chance, could you please send a thank you to the Technical Center and their food services and culinary program. They did a great job today. The children did a great job, and those types of thank yous go a long way, as you know, in schools. So if you enjoyed today, you enjoyed what they put on, please just send a quick thank you to them. If not, send it through Joanne. She can send it to them. But thank you to the Technical Center for everything they did today, and the staff and the students. They did a tremendous job. Q&A time. I'll turn it over to you folks. If I don't trip on my way out.
So essentially we had a lot of feedback at Brewman, our federal grants program training that we held a couple of weeks ago at this point, that folks would just appreciate just time as well for Q&A. So if any of you have any questions that you want answered by any of the team that remain, now's the time.
Don't be shy.
As I say, we have captured all the questions to this point in a Q&A document, which we'll share with Joanne once we've cleaned it up.
I think somebody mentioned this, but all of the presentations that we're seeing here today, will those be printed to PDF and shared after?
Yep, I'll make them a PDF. A lot of us have put notes in with that slide, so you get the background information too, not just the slide.
Yeah.
So we'll make that a PDF and I'll send it to Joanne.
Awesome.
It might be Tuesday, but you'll get it.
That's fine.
I'm sure you don't need it. Any other questions? Yes.
I just have a question about the late liquidation for Esther. So we applied for the late liquidation, but what are the next steps? Like, what can we expect? Is a decision going to be made? How will we
You want to take that?
Yeah, sure. So we have the request. So our team is starting reviewing those. So, and we will be compiling our application because there is a template that we are submitting to USAID. So that's what we are working on, and I think that is the end of by this end of December we have to submit that to aid, and when we get response we will be communicating with you.
So it's in process. So the feds have given us a wonderful big document to put everything into. So that's why when you applied for that, there was so many questions because we have to then populate that. So that's what MaineASBO said. Like, it's going into that doc. That will then go to the feds. They'll review it, and then we'll get notification, and then we'll notify you. Yes.
Do you know roughly when that notification's going to come from the feds so that we can plan on our end?
I don't plan to know any federal timelines at all because in my experience it could take 2 weeks to 2 years. So I'm sure they're expediting them as quickly as they can simply because they know districts are waiting on that and they need to know as soon as possible about that approval. So we'll be advocating for a quick turnaround. I don't know, MaineASBO, if they said like how the timelines we can approximate now. We'll double check and we'll put it in the Q&A if we have a more firm timeline that we're aware of. But as of right now, I don't think the feds have committed to reviewing it within 90 days or anything like that. So
I think just with the tech timeline for those of us who have applied for an extension,
yep.
We're going to start getting nervous around mid-December if we haven't heard anything.
Yep.
And then what position does that put us in if we haven't heard anything?
Yep. 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 We'll advocate for that. Any other questions? Yes.
It's not really a question, but just for anybody that didn't attend Brewman, one of the things that they did say is if you're leaving money on the table and you can reclass something that qualifies out of your general fund or one of your projects in ESSER to do so, to not leave money on the table. As long as it is, you know, that September 30th meets that September 30th obligation, can be classed from the general fund to your ESSER fund if it meets the requirements.
And I do have leftover books from Brewman, so if folks didn't attend Brewman or are unable to, they're in my car and I parked all the way down the bottom, so I'm going to drive up and then I'll bring them in and I'll give them to Joanna and you can help yourself with those if you are unable to attend and didn't get a copy.
That was a great 2 days. Those of us who attended, I think overall, people I've talked to were really, really happy with that. So on behalf of your entire team, thank you for putting that on because that was an exceptional 2 days of grant learning.
You're welcome. I'm working on contact hours today, so if you've completed the survey, I'm going to be reconciling the survey with attendance, and then I'll send those contact hours probably over the weekend, so they should be in your inbox by Tuesday, so you'll have those as well. If you've not completed the survey, you could do it today. That is great, so then you can get your contact hours by Tuesday. So, any other questions? So the screen behind me has office hours. So all of our teams have office hours generally every month. So we wanted to remind you of those. I think there are hyperlinks there where you can register for those. Some of them are more structured than others. Some are just drop-in, and if you need support, there's someone on the other end of the screen, as it were, to provide that support. So we want to encourage you to participate in those. And then we've listed our contacts for each of the grants. So if you have questions or you're not too sure if you're new, you know who your grant contact is. We have 2 pages of contacts for you there, so you can reach out to folks if you need that support, and then other ways that you can communicate with us as well. We've listed all of the ways you can communicate with us. And that is all we've got for you for today. So thank you.
Thank you to the whole team. On behalf of ASBO and business managers, thank you. This is helpful to really get everyone in the same room at the same time to be able to hear these updates. hear from all of you and your respective teams that you represent. So on behalf of all of us, thank you for all being able to be here at the same time, because sometimes we hear from one group and then we hear from another, and then that raises more questions than answers. So on behalf of us, thank you again. Kim and Allie are here from the DOE data team. They're going to tell us a lot of things about data, right?
Data visualization. Fun stuff.
We're going to visualize data.
We're going to visualize it.
It's all yours.
Thank you. You have a... Was that HTML? From the... Oh, okay. Perfect. Nice to that.
While Allie's getting us queued up, can you guys all hear me? I mean, I can pull out the teacher voice if I have to. I just want to let you know, who here is from Aroostook County? Hi, Mark. Hi, guys. I was a business manager for 23 years in Easton. You're my people. Data snagged me. So now I'm data. We are going to talk about fun things today. We're not talking about invoices, we're not talking about money, we're not talking about all the rules that our federal programs people have. Love you guys. We are going to show you some exciting things that we're doing in the data team, and it's brand new, and we're rolling it out, and Allie also has a teacher voice, so I'm gonna let her take over.
Hi everybody, I'm Allie. I am the data quality trainer with the Department of Education data team. I work for Kim. We have been working on data visualizations. For anyone who came to our summer training this year, this will be kind of familiar. We have been rolling it out slowly, and pretty soon some bigger steps are coming out that will be able to get you direct access into your specific SAU. So that's coming soon. We're hopeful within the next couple of weeks. So faster than I anticipated. So we're getting there. But today we're going to talk about the visualizations, what we have currently publicly posted. And those publicly posted dashboards are going to be what you will end up having access to on the internal side. And throughout this presentation, if you want to go through the dashboards on the data warehouse, you are welcome to do so. Some of them are QuickSight, some of them are not. We are focused on our QuickSight implementation currently. So if you have any feedback, there will be an opportunity for that feedback to come in to us formally, and I could send that to Joanne this afternoon with the link for the feedback survey. So with data visualizations, we report out a lot of data that is reported up to us from all of you, from your SAU, and we, in all of our work that we do, want to ensure that we are meeting our strategic goals, to inspire trust in education, to promote educator workforce, education excellence and equity for all Maine learners, student and school safety and well-being, culture of innovation and continuous improvement, and build healthy and collaborative work environments, strengthening the potential of Maine DOE and its staff. So all of the work that we're doing with these visualizations, we want this to be at the heart of it, and if you feel like it's not getting there, let us know. So today we're going to look into the data visualizations that we currently have posted, as I said. I hope that you will be able to find them by the end of today's meeting. You'll be able to navigate them, identify the metadata, where it's all coming from, so that you can vet that data and check it on our behalf. You know better than we do whether it's accurate or not. So let us know.
To interrupt, if you have your laptops and want to, navigate to the site, that would be perfectly okay.
Yes. So what are data visualizations? We say that term, what does it mean? Previously, what we have done is we would take enrollment data, for example. We would take your aggregate numbers, student counts for your SAU, by your schools, and what we would do is we would post that in an Excel sheet. It would be numbers on a screen that then you would have to either take and create visualizations for yourself so that you can better digest those. We have taken those and we have created visualizations for you that we hope that you will be able to use to talk to school board, to talk to your parents and families, whoever you need to talk to about school level data. So that is the goal. And so you're going to see charts, you're going to see tables, you're going to see diagrams. We have a lot going on in our visualizations. The reason that we wanted to go with visualization instead of those sheets is because with a visualization, you're going to take the data a lot more quickly. You're going to be able to make a comparison. You're going to be able to see the data much more efficiently than if you're looking at numbers on a sheet and trying to figure out, is my rate of economically disadvantaged higher or lower? Well, we have to math it, or we can look at it in a chart. So that's kind of the goal in visualization, is that efficiency of being able to see what's there. So, indulge me for a moment. You may close your eyes. I will read this out loud, but I want you to visualize what I'm saying to you. An oak tree that is very tall. The right side of the tree is very full and hangs over a driveway that loops around the base of the tree. The left side of the tree is not as full. There are other trees up close to this side. There's an early morning sun shining, but most of the tree is in shade cover, except for the top, which shines a bright green. The lowest branches of the tree hang a few feet from the ground, and gradually they get long and skinny as you look up the tree. So picture your tree. Does everybody have their tree in mind? Does anybody have a goofy looking tree or a cartoon tree or something? Okay. This was the tree that I was describing. Is this the tree that you saw?
Where's the driveway?
Yeah. Driveway is right. It's a closer up picture that you may have interpreted in your head. So that's visualization. I can show you the tree much better than I can describe the tree to you. So describing the tree is similar to those static sheets that we previously had. You can look at them, you can make your own interpretation, you can draw your own picture from them, but it's still not going to be the tree that I'm drawing here. So it may not be consistent with what you're seeing across other SAUs. And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to make it so that you can do easier comparison with other SAUs when you're doing this work. Okay? Also within your own SAU, the work that you're doing there. So the visualization is great. It does a lot to tell more of the story. And I say that very deliberately, that more of the story is present when I give you the visualization. There's still more to this tree than what this picture can tell you. So you have to have conversations about your data visualizations, even though they're telling more of the story. For example, in this particular tree is the tree that is at the end of my parents' driveway. And when I was a child, I used to climb this tree. So for me, this has sentimental value. You would not know that by just looking at this picture of the tree. You would not know that I used to use that bottom branch to climb up to the top of the tree as high as I could. You would have to have conversations about that. So there's a place in data visualization for conversation and contextualizing what you're seeing there. The other thing that I will note about this tree is that this tree actually no longer looks like this. Much to my dismay, a couple weeks ago I went to my mom's house and I looked at the tree. She cut the bottom branch off. So my disappointment, that was how I got up the tree. Now I can't climb the tree. So it's a whole thing. But this is kind of important to note when we think about metadata. There's metadata about this picture. This picture was taken on a very specific day, and that's what the tree looked like on that day. The next day, it didn't look like that at the exact same time, and now a few months later, there's no bottom branch. So you have to also be aware, I don't know what that is. So you have to be aware of when the point in time of the data was taken. So if you're looking at the enrollment data, for example, it's October 1. So we're going to talk a little bit about metadata and how that's going to tell you where your data is coming from. So this is a data visualization from our enrollment visualization. One of the things that I wanted to point out here that is there's some conversation that would need to be had around the data that we're seeing. Okay? So it's showing a visualization. We can see, for example, I like to use this example. I can't use my pointer. Economic disadvantaged students, we can see a pattern there, right? There's a gradual decrease in economically disadvantaged students in the past 10 years. Okay? Do we agree that that's true? Is that an accurate representation of the state of Maine, that students are no longer economically disadvantaged? No. What's the bigger conversation that we need to have about economically disadvantaged student identification? Why are we not identifying students anymore? What was it? I heard somebody say. Parents aren't filling out the forms. Schools are part of CEP or Special Provision 2 and can't collect economically disadvantaged information with free and reduced lunch form. So you have to use an alternative method. It's not yielding results, right? So this may be what we're collecting, and it may look like we're getting richer, but really there's more context. That's the conversation that we need to have around the data to understand that that's not actually true, right? So it's having those conversations, talking to families, talk about what that means for your SAU in particular, that your economically disadvantaged counts have been going down, and what that means for their taxes in their town, right? My taxes are due in a couple of days, and I'm just like, I hope all those kids filled out that form, right? As a taxpayer, you want to know. So those are the things that you can take back and have conversation about. When we look at this data also, school year is going to be your fiscal year. So this is school year 2024. This is 2023-2024 school data. And this is going to be from your October 1 snapshot. That would be outlined in your metadata, which would be available at the top. I think, yeah, I'm missing a slide somewhere. Maybe it's later, I don't remember. We'll get to it, I promise. But you'll see all of that information in your presentation. So this is demographics, student groups over time, from the enrollment dashboard. So you can see this one on the publicly available data. Once you have access to your internal SAU specific data, your login password protected QuickSight account, you would be able to break down, see the public and your own SAU. So where are the data visualizations? Well, the data visualizations are available on the data warehouse page of the Maine Department of Education page. Under data and funding, data warehouse. We have been gradually working on turning our static reports into visualization. So not all of them are currently QuickSight created. Some of them are still Tableau. Some of them are still spreadsheets. But these are the ones that are going to be your QuickSight visualizations, charts, graphs, images. Multilingual learner, enrollment, graduation, and military affiliation are the student reports that have been changed over to QuickSight visualization. Schools and SAU data have also been changed over, as well as staff. So those are the only reports in those two domains at the bottom of the page. But the student data, we have only 4 that have been changed over. This was the slide I was looking for. When you are looking at a data visualization in the dashboards have multiple different options across the top of how you can disaggregate the data. So you come to this landing page. When you look at the enrollment report, this is what you would see when you first land there. Across the top, you have different options of how you can visualize the data. You have demographic over time, category over time, by location, statewide raw data, and then that last tab, that's the metadata tab. That's the one that's going to tell you where it came from. We'll dive a little deeper into that in just a moment. On the left side of your screen, on some of the dashboards, you have filters that will break it down further for you. And you'll be able to look at specific school year. In some of them, you can break down to specific SAU. It really just depends on suppression levels, what we're able to put out on each of the dashboards. So if we have really small school populations that are gonna just suppress 90% of the state, we didn't put that out as an option for filtering. So just be aware of that. So there is some limitation in the public view of this. Once you have your login, you'll have even more filter capability. There will be a webinar on December 3rd where we'll be talking about the capabilities and navigating the internal version of this dashboard. Okay, and you'll have filtering ability. You'll be able to filter up to 5 criteria and break right down to granular level of students who are economically disadvantaged, age 3, and multilingual learner, for example. You could also go further than that and dig even deeper. Yeah? That's a really good question. So, yes, and it's because they're coming from the same data set. This is October 1 data, so it should be consistent with what you see in your October 1 report in NEO. So it should be consistent with your ED 279. Yes? Okay. Your metadata, this is the tab that you'll see when you open that up. On most of the pages, it looks almost exactly the same. I will point out the data set specifically. It's going to tell you where the data is coming from. So this one is historical October 1 public reports. So this is coming from your October report in NEO. You can reconcile the data by going back to that report and see what was reported up to see if it's accurate. Okay? Questions so far? Yeah?
How are we going to get our login information to actually get to this information?
Great question. So I am not 100% sure how that's supposed to look. Right now, we're rolling it up to superintendents. That's the first step. It's funny you laugh.
One of us in the room.
I know. I know. I wasn't going to say that, but yes, it is. So I don't know what that noise is, but it's okay. Oh, okay, the bell. Okay, that makes sense now. That makes sense. So we're starting a rollout to superintendents. We've been in a pilot process where we've pulled in some data specialists. We have a representative from as a business manager, also representing in the pilot group. And I have very much advocated for business managers, data specialists, assistant superintendents, and superintendents to be in this first rollout. It's proving a little more difficult than we thought to get all of the data specialists put into that role to get them access. So that might take a little bit longer, but we are rolling out to superintendents and kind of playing with that group of people to see if we can get that access out to them first and what that will look like so we can hopefully refine the process as we keep adding more people to it.
In other words, superintendents are our guinea pigs at this point?
Yeah. Yeah. I said, that's what I said. I know. I don't know, anyway. So yes, I'm advocating for you, I promise. I'm really trying. I was very disappointed when I got to the meeting last week and I was like, so these people are gonna have access, and they're like, no, just the superintendents. I was like, what? This is just bizarre. We can't do that. No. So we're working on it. We're getting there.
Thank you.
Yes. I'll get you there eventually. I'll find a way. Yep. So, if you have an opportunity to look at the data that is in these dashboards, we welcome your feedback. We have a survey that we're collecting this information. This is part of our FY19 grant that we built this platform, this opportunity for everyone to be able to see these data visualizations. And as part of that, we do want some feedback. We want this to grow. We don't want this to stay stagnant. We want this to be useful for you. And so with that, we want your feedback and want to know what we can do to improve Fiscal reports, do we need those in there? I think we're working on migrating all of that over, but it's a slow migration and getting everything to where it needs to be. So we're getting there, but this is our first iteration. So we're excited. We're excited to finally share it. I've been hearing about this since I started over 2 years ago, and it's here. So this is exciting. So I hope the visualizations are helpful for you. But this will be the survey that I send over to Joanne this afternoon, and hopefully you'll have an opportunity to take a look and give us some feedback on those public-facing dashboards. And then once you have access for your internal ones, you can complete the survey again about those ones. And then if you want to contact us, you can email medms.support@maine.gov. We did rebrand the help desk to Medms Support this summer for anyone who has not seen that. If you email medms.helpdesk@maine.gov, it does still forward to medms.support. The phone number is still the same. We've also updated our website to go by data domain, so student, staff, and organization data. Those are all broken out now instead of being by system. So if you need any help navigating those, please reach out. Happy to help. And yeah, Kim, you can also email Kim. Kimberly.a.hall@maine.gov. I'm so good at it, I just remember it off the top of my head. When I need to throw her under the bus, that's what I do. I'm just like, email Kim.
If it's something really bad, use Kimberly Hall.
No.
That's a whole other person.
It is a whole different department. Any questions about our visualization?
Anybody able to look at them and have any questions?
If it's something quirky that you see with your school's information, Kimberly?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm all the quirky stuff. Show me. I'm all about quirky.
Just so for our school, like that's odd that we have 40 FTEs versus for that year.
Was it right on Saturday?
So I'll have to look at
Yeah,
that.
check
but-
into something on that.
Okay.
Definitely email me.
If it's, sure.
Like I said, 23 years business manager. I got you.
And one of the things about QuickSight also I didn't mention earlier, but QuickSight is the last stop for the data in theory. We also report it up to the feds at some level. But this is after your data certification. So this is after you've reviewed it. This is not the place to come and review your data. You want to do that in NEO still. So this is not replacing that stop. It still needs to be accurate in NEO because once it gets to QuickSight, we are kind of stuck with what was reported. If what you see in the report is not what was reported, that's when we would fix it. But we can't at that point go back and fix a NEO report. It's already been reported up, so. Okay. Other questions or feedback about the dashboard? Okay.
Come on, we're super excited about this. My ultimate goal, and it has been since its inception, is to get rid of NEO.
Get rid of NEO?
Yes. That's my goal. Then I can retire.
So how would we report our staff and students if we didn't have
We
NEO?
would find
Stay tuned.
Okay.
Stay tuned.
We would have to find some new
Yeah,
way.
we will have something.
Yeah. Okay.
But I'm hoping it's not going to be
Something
NEO.
easier.
That is the
That's
plan.
goal.
Can we request it be something we can do uploads into for
You can.
staff? That'd be amazing.
Totally.
Business manager, 23 years. I got you. We're getting there.
We're getting there.
One thing I will mention here, and you will all probably be getting an email from me at some point, we're looking to survey which HR systems you're using as far as the ability to upload staff. So I will be reaching out to do a survey to see what HR systems are out there.
I mean, if you can put anything into a spreadsheet
Yeah,
or whatever,
and upload it.
And upload it, then.
What we're hoping is to make it even easier than that.
Oh, okay, good, good.
To make it automatic and you don't have to upload. So
Interoperability.
we are really trying to save you time. And I know, staff sucks.
Are you talking about using APIs then?
Maybe. That is the plan. That's what we're working toward.
Which then the software has to have the ability to do that.
Correct.
That's why we need to
one of
find
the
out
hiccups,
what's out
yeah.
there and what they have for capabilities.
Yeah.
It's coming. It's slow, but it's coming.
All right.
Before 5. I'm that close to retirement.
No.
Yeah.
What am I going to do without you?
I don't know. It will be before 5 years. I guarantee it. Any other questions?
The balls are rolling.
Kind of along the same lines, because, so I'm new, and I'm using ADS Pro Fund, which I'm familiar with
Yeah.
because I was on the vendor side of that software. And that software is not being developed anymore. So I'm concerned if there's a major
Do
requirement.
you have an ability to create a CSV file?
Yeah.
Okay. So we can work around it. It would have to be an upload. We couldn't do an API probably, but
It would have to be what?
it would have to be an upload. But we'll see.
I
That's
mean, and I think, because I used to work for Tyler,
Yeah.
that they're gonna comply with state requirements for the software, they just won't develop features.
we haven't gotten to the point yet where we're developing our capabilities to see what we actually need. First, I have to find out what's out there.
Yeah.
Cool.
Cool.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, folks.
Do you have anything you need to say before? So Joanne says don't leave without taking one of those.
We could say the same thing over here for our coffee cups. We don't want to lug them home, so come grab one.
Are they plastic or are
They're
they?
recycled material.
See, you can start throwing them. I want to thank all of you for coming out today. Like I said at the beginning, we're trying to get around the state, so hopefully being able to be over in this part along the coast was helpful to some folks. Please provide feedback. Thank you to DOE on all levels, data, the federal teams. Thank you to Androscoggin, to EMC for being sponsors today. Any other items before we leave, because our next in-person meeting will not be till February. Again, I will leave you with this. This is your organization. Let us know what we can do for you. What we're doing is working, not working, provide us feedback, because we can improve and get better and provide you what you need and want if you don't tell us. I hope you all have a great holiday weekend. Have a safe trip, and we'll see you soon. Thank you.